What's going on, everyone? My name is Scorpion, the owner of the Battle Hub Draft League, and it is that time of the year again. We are doing the Battle Hub Draft League Power Rankings, this time for our UBERS League season here in Season 5. We're going to be having a look at every single team that the coaches in our league have drafted. The draft has now concluded a few days ago. Grace period is over, so all the teams are locked in for Week 1, and we are very excited to have a look at them. In this video, we're going to be having a look at them, rating them, how good we think they are, and what their chances are of making the playoffs. There's a few disclaimers I want to get out of the way, but before I do that, obviously you might have caught that I said we, because I have a couple of guests with me to try and help me with this ranking. So first off, I've got one of my loyal commissioners. You know him, you love him. It's Brandon P. Say hi to the people, friend.
What's up, everybody? It's your favorite, most objective commissioner here, Brandon P. Thank you for having me here today, Scorpion.
And of course, that is not the only person, because we have a new guest. Well, she's not new to the BHDL, but she is new on the Battle Hub Draft League YouTube channel. We have the one and only Dogmaster that makes the lovely spreadsheets that are used to archive and keep track of past seasons of the BHDL. We got Frandy. Say hi to the people, Frandy.
Thank you. I've been gone from the YouTube space for a little bit, and that's because Scorp is editing this, so I don't need to do jack shit. Woohoo! But yeah, you guys may know me. I've been around for a pretty long time now, but hey, I get to contribute to the community outside of just the thing you look at now. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Yes, going to be an absolutely amazing time. Obviously, the main reason why we really wanted to have Frandy on it, because she does have a bit more expertise in UBERS leagues than Brandon and I do. So we're very excited to hear your thoughts as well. So welcome aboard, and we're going to waste no further time. Yep, let's get into it. Before I go anywhere, though, I want to get two quick disclaimers out of the way. First of all, as you can probably imagine, this ranking is completely subjective. If we think your team is ass, that is only a reminder or an invitation for you to prove us wrong. All right, speak with your actions in the battles, and hopefully you can pilot it well. And obviously that also means that if we think that your team is not very good, that is only an invitation for you to prove us wrong and show us how good of a coach you are to carry a team that far still. And secondly, and even arguably more importantly, we are not taking known player skill into account. There are obviously a mix of returning and new coaches in this league, and we don't know anything about our new coaches, what their skill level is. We're only excited to find out. But of course, when we look at someone like Raymond's team, BHDL's most consistent player, I'm going to use him as an example. Obviously, we know that whatever he crafts is going to be good, but we're not going to take that into account when looking at his team. We're just going to look at it from an objective side. So, with that out of the way, we're going to move along with the draft order here, and the first team that we're going to have a look at is the Italian Inkays, coached by King Barra, who started the draft off with Groudon. This is the Groudon Sun team. So, you know what? You're the guest, Frandy. You want to start us off with this one?
Oh, absolutely. I have some immediate observations. So, on one hand, your offense is obviously very good, as is per usual for any Sun team. I love Hisuian Lilligant as a Terra Pokemon, because Terra Victory Dance is exclusive to this thing. It's very good. Like, obviously, you have Chlorophyll. You even have the Hustle sets, which aren't even that bad if you don't want to bring Sun. Well, you're gonna bring Sun because of Groudon, but if you don't want to put a Heat Rock on your Groudon, because you don't always want to do that. Sometimes your Groudon wants to be like Lumberry for potential status, Paso, Rindo, like Life Orb, just any item that would be good on any offensive ground type. You don't want to pigeonhole your Groudon into Sun, which I like about the Sun mode on this team. It's a mode, it's not a requirement. You can do other stuff with your Sun threats. They are not exclusive to Sun, which is why I like the Lilligant. I like the less so the Walking Wake. I like the Sarah Ledge. Hell, I even like the Scizor on this team. The one thing I don't like, though, is in UBERS, it is very important to have counters to the most common types. One of them is Dragon, obviously, and I mean, Florges is a very good counter to those. I like that your Dragon answer is Florges. But the other most common type, arguably more common and more threatening than dragons in the Uber tier, is Psychic types. And I'm looking at this team, and it doesn't have a Dark type.
That is understandably a weakness, yeah. With all the Deoxys running around with Lunala and across Dawn Wings, that's a big issue.
Let's not forget big old Mewtwo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you don't have and your ghost resists aren't much better. It's Ambipom, and Ambipom is one of your Terras. So like, yeah, sure, your Ambipom is probably going to be tearing into normal anyway, if you ever choose to bring Ambipom. But the fact that Ambipom is such a rare bring also makes it so that ghost types go insane on your team, and you can't even out-offense them that easily because you're not going to get the opportunity to set up with Ceruledge that often, and even if you do, +2 Shadow Sneak is only going to be killing Lunala, probably, without Shadow Shield, which is uncommon against your team because that motherfucker's running Boots, it's running Calm Mind, and it's, like, killing everything on your team.
Yeah, for sure. I can follow up on that. I do like this team. There's a lot of things about this team that I do like. Like Frandy said, Sun is just a mode on this team. It's not all-out Sun, which I think is definitely good for the predictability factor of the team. Obviously, Groudon is an amazing Pokemon, an amazing first pick as well. Gets Stealth Rock, gets Spikes thanks to this generation. Now has Will-O-Wisp as well. Can play offensive and defensive roles. The Walking Wake is a massive threat on this team, obviously, that we all know how much of a monster Walking Wake is, and nearly got banned at the start of this generation. Like, the top half of this team is amazing. I will say, you know, you guys know me, I'm a very, very big fan of Zapdos. That was on my championship team in Season 4, and I really like how it fits on this team as well. The only thing is, of course, that, you know, Groudon Sun will lower the accuracy of Hurricane, which is a bit of an issue, but you also get a Fire-type Weather Ball as coverage. That's actually something unique that my team last season didn't have. My biggest criticism...
Just boosted Heat Wave.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's another really good coverage move. However, my biggest criticism of this team is there is 2 defensive walls of this team that I think are horribly, horribly flawed, and those are Regirock and Avalok. I am not a fan of these Pokemon. I mean, maybe Avalok as a Terra Captain I could see the vision, but it is not a Terra Captain. And I do not like how much these Pokemon are just kind of like glues that try to give this team more defense when they probably won't. They'll just get bypassed by special attackers. And I don't really see
they're the biggest threat to your team because of the lack of a dark type.
Yeah, and they are very prone to getting taken advantage of. I can, especially Regirock, I'm not sure how many times that will even show up to a game. I'm just gonna say I'm not a Regirock believer. And Avalog, without the ability to Terra, is not a great spinner either. He does have the Scizor, so it's not like his hazard control is completely nullified. He definitely does have a good defogger. But Scizor doesn't want to bring defog every week, and I have exploited many a Scizor in the past of teams who relied on it for defogging purposes. So yeah, that's obviously a problem. Now you do have your standard type cores. Obviously you have your Dragon Fairy Steel core, you have your Fire Water Grass core, but like I'm a big fan of the upper half of this team, but the lower half not so much. I mean, I like Florges, and obviously Dragalge, solid bulky pivot, grounded poison type, all of that is very useful. But I definitely have my nitpicks about this team. But Brandon, what are you thinking?
My opinions on this team are very similar to yours. At the top half of the team, I just love because Groudon, besides, you know, childhood nostalgic purposes, I do think is a pretty, you know, solid mon, and then having Walking Wake and Lilligant there is just amazing. I'm using Ceruledge in a draft right now, and it's been probably carrying my season, so I just personally have a natural bias towards that mon, thinking it's great. However, I do, like Frandy pointed out, I do kind of dislike that, you know, Ghost is kind of spammable against this team, and that's his first and best answer offensively, but like she pointed out, unless you're shadow sneaking, because most Ghosts I can think of, like on top of my head, I think of mons like Dragapult, Lunala, you know, just
across the Dawn Wings.
Like, they're just going to always outspeed you, and you're never going to get a chance to use Poltergeist on them, and you have to rely on Shadow Sneak, which, well, you already pointed out the flaw with that. And just like Scorpion, the bottom half of the team, I mean, I like certain mons for niche purposes, like Ambipom, Florges, even Dragalge, but the other two I'm not really big fans of. Regirock, Avalok, not really big fans of. And one big reason I'm not really fans of, and I mean my team kind of has something similar going on, but I'm not really just the biggest fan when your walls are both weak to, you know, a common typing. In this case, they're both weak to fighting, which to me, I feel like fighting's pretty common, but at the same time, I'm not too inverse with Ubers, so maybe it's not as common in Ubers. I don't know, but to me, I wouldn't want my walls to both be weak to the same stuff. But I feel like the team is very strong offensively, but defensively, it just has its. You have sponges, but I don't really see any walls.
You have Band-Aid checked
Forges.
to a lot of stuff. It's all a lot of Band-Aids,
Yeah.
which I'm not a big fan of.
I think that's a good term
Like,
to describe it, yeah.
Like, Florges helps against special attackers until you have to deal with every special attacker, and then you either get overwhelmed or you get Psyshocked by the thing that decided to run Psyshock, because Psyshock plus any other special move. Like, this team is genuinely vulnerable to Psyshock plus Psychic.
Yep.
And I just think that's a problem, personally.
Yeah. Like I said, there's definitely really good parts of this team as well. I do think, even though Walking Wake would have made for an even better, arguably, Terra Captain, I do think Hisuian Lilligant is a fantastic choice. And I mean, Ambipom fits in the budget, so you might as well. Terra does enable that thing to do a few things that you normally can't do. The speed tiers on this team, I think, are also like better than they seem on paper, because obviously there's the possibility of Chlorophyll, Hisuian Lilligant, and potentially a speed boosting Walking Wake as well. So even though the highest on paper with Ambipom is base 115, I think it's not as bad. But yeah,
not only the Chlorophyll speed control, but also you have a lot of good priority on this team. You have Shadow Sneak, Sarilege, Technician, Bullet Punch with Scizor, Technician Fake Out with Ambipom. You have a lot of good priority control on this team as well. I don't think the offense or speed control on this team is at all the problem. It really is just, will you be able to enable your offense through the offense that is being shot at you?
Yeah.
I just feel like this team's defense is not sufficient at all. Not sufficient at all enough of a backbone to support the main team.
For
But
sure.
obviously, if you're a very good hyper offense player, if you can position yourself in a way where you don't really need to do that, then I can see you doing well if you play fast-paced enough and not let yourself get caught by any play at all whatsoever. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah.
Again, prove us wrong.
If-
If you're goated, you're goated.
Like, if I could honestly see, like, you just bring these first 6 in every week, and, like, honestly, you could maybe get away with it, like, genuinely, because these first 6 mons are really good, and they're good together, so. I do think this team ticks a lot of boxes of what a good draft needs, but obviously it does have a few, especially just flawed mons, I'd say, like you said, bandages. So let's have a look at the ranking. What do we reckon this team? So there's 5 tiers. We've got the S, A, B, C, D tiers here, so there's 5 in total. What are we thinking?
Low B, high C. One or the other.
I was leaning towards B tier as well.
As am I, because
Okay, then yeah, low B.
I do think that the Sun Core in this team is good enough, and it can definitely put some serious pressure on opponents. So I don't think this is a bad team or even on the lower end. But it's in the middle. It's in the middle a lot. All right.
Then yeah, low B.
Let's move on right along to the next team, which is the Down Under Krookodiles, coached by Roller, the Curum White Snow team. Exciting time. Brandon, you want to start off with this one?
Sure, I can start off. So Rolder. So, I feel like just looking at like the team, pretty offensively speaking. Dang, I can't get my words out today. Offensively speaking, very strong, like Snow team, because you have the Kyurem White, the Terra Captain Titan. Don't really know the most about Kyurem White, but the only thing I know about it is that it has like a base 170 special attack. So I just know having this thing in Snow. Yeah, so having that special attack plus receiving a defense boost in the Snow, like making this thing him being able to increase this thing's longevity in a sense, like I feel like that's pretty pretty solid. And he has like good defensive cores as well with the Slowking Gowler, the Corviknight, and even other strong offensive mons outside the Snow, like the Urshifu Single Strike. Swampert, who we saw last season, is a pretty consistent mon in whatever you wanted to do. If I'm being honest, I think his outside, Corviknight's a pretty good. I feel like he has pretty good, like a pretty good hazard remover in Corviknight. Don't really feel the best about Sandslash because I don't know. When I think UBERS, I don't feel like Sandslash should be here, but and the only reason I point that out is because I know from time to time defog can be exploited, and I just personally don't know how to feel about Sandslash and Ubers, nor do I know how to feel about Wigglytuff. But all the other mons up, like Lantern up, I feel like they're all solid. And especially Cresselia, since if you've been following the BHDL for long enough, you know how I feel about Cresselia. But what do you guys think?
I just feel like a lot of the pieces on this team are very redundant. Like, I love Kira, I love top 4. Top 4, I'm a big fan. Arguably top 5 if you handle Alolan Ninetales right, but I have a feeling that Glowkings exclusively got drafted. I mean, obviously it helps with the fairies that you want to spam your Dracos with, and Chili Reception is an incredible tool with that. I just think, like, what is that? Like, tripling down on going snow on a Kyurem White team feels a little odd, because the only ice offense you need, really, I argue, is Kyurem Black, and maybe Alolan Ninetales if you want to get Aurora Veil. I feel like just top 5 would have been perfectly fine. You get something else to support it, and you get a Terra Captain that can work outside of snow to fully facilitate that. But instead, there's the Terrace Titan. I mean, the Terra Cresselia works fine here. I think Terra Cresselia has a lot of potential in Ubers specifically, just because of its bulk. You can Terra into a type that beats the opposing Uber, so that your Kyurem White, your Urshifu, and your other breakers can go in offensively. But I just feel like you're never going to bring Titan at that point. The times you're bringing Titan are the times that you need an extra little bit of speed, which I argue you could have done with just drafting a faster Pokemon higher than 109, because that's also a problem with this team. Like, you have speed control with Titan, so you outspeed things, but then that also means that everything, like, base 115 and above is going modest against you. I feel like that's very bad against particularly the higher tier Ubers, like Zacian, Mewtwo, like Deoxys, Palkia Origin, like, all of those guys are running modest adamant against you. I feel like that's a problem. Your defense is also not very well facilitated outside of Cresselia, which is type overlap with Galarian Slowking, again, another redundant piece on this team. Lantern, Sandslash, when you already have Swampert, again, very redundant. I just feel like you could have managed your points better to pick out better counters to the things that you struggle with, rather than doubling down on the things you already have. That's just me.
Yeah, I agree, and it's I'm sad to say this, but that's kind of been a little theme with Rollers teams. There's a couple of things on this team that I do really like. I think Kyurem White Glowking is an amazing core. Like, if I had Kyurem White, Glowking would have been my instant round 2 pick. Urshifu Single Strike as well. Just add-ons that have more. These two mons have amazing synergy with Glowking.
Oh yeah, no, it's beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful top 4.
Yep.
I love that top 4.
Yeah, the top 4 is phenomenal. And Corviknight and Glowking cover each other beautifully. Even like in a standard league, these two are very hard to break. I do think that their dynamic is a little bit worse than Ubers, just because there are a lot of Ubers that can easily muscle past the combination of them, just because of the offensive nature of them. But I still think, you're not going to have your Uber out at all times, so these two are still going to put in some serious work and are going to stop some a good amount of mons.
Corviknight in particular, I don't like in Ubers, because a lot of the things that you're going to be switching into, primarily the dragons that you draft a steel type for, a lot of them get Thunderbolt and or Flamethrower in this. Like,
yep.
A lot of that, like, let me just look at the highest dragons. Like, yeah, Palkia Origin gets Fire Blast, Flamethrower. Zekrom obviously beats you. The Giratinas, you're actually a pretty good switch-in into, but you're also going to get Will-O-Wisp then set up on, so you're not really a good switch-in either. Retram, obviously, Palkia already talked about, like, Dialga gets fire coverage. Like, a lot of the dragons that you're trying to switch into are too powerful for you to take their super effective hits against, like you can against, like, I don't know, like Baxcalibur. Like, you can't really do that with Corviknight in the Uber tier, and a lot of the dragons that you're going to be facing are going to be ones that are able to muscle past Corviknight. But that's why you have Glowking, and I think Glowking's bulk is far more sufficient in Ubers than Corviknight's.
Yeah, and that's slow pivoting and regenerator as well. So yeah, the top 4.
And that's also just my personal bias against Corbinite.
That makes sense, yeah. It is still a very solid hazard removal option, though. That's always necessary, and Steel Flying, by all accounts, is still an excellent typing. Now, this Titan, the thing with this Titan is that Titan has been going absolutely crazy for Rolder and SDA, but I'm very down for him to prove me wrong, but I feel like he's heavily overrating that thing. I have a worrying feeling it's not going to do that great in this, especially because the whole Snow plus Titan core is, like, very, very telegraphed, and like Frandy said, it is his only form of speed control outside of a lot of Ninetales base 109. Lots of Ubers are going to very easily run modest and attack boosting natures against this team, which also makes the defensive core do their job not as effectively. I do think Swampert is a very, very solid addition to this team, very, very necessary as well. But like you said, that also makes these last 3 picks, I'm very, very questioning when you're ever going to bring them. Lantern especially, I know we know how much Raymond loves Lantern. It's an amazing mon, or at least it was an amazing mon for him. But these last 3 mons, like, why? Why are they here? And if you Terra, and another thing with this team that I don't like is I don't like teams that have 2 Terra captains that heavily depend on Terra, which means that it is never a viable option to bring them both, and that is very much the case here, because Cresselia's natural typing is ass, so you're never going to bring that thing if you want to Terra as a Titan, and I also feel like that's going to make this team even more predictable. So, again, I feel like he should have tried to make the team a bit more balanced and not so overly fixated on the Snow Core, but the Snow Core itself is excellent, and again, I have no doubt that this team could still put in some serious work. But it has notable flaws for sure. But Brandon, whatever you wanted to say, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, because now that I think about it, since you brought up the SDA, one big reason that Titan has been going off over there, he's been able to find opportunities to basically just belly drum, go +6 and sweep. And the more I think about the things that we allowed because we allowed Ubers this season, I personally just don't feel like he'll have as many opportunities to do that as he did in SDA.
Literally my point. I don't think this thing is ever going to get an opportunity to belly drum. That's literally why I have my doubts about Titan here.
And also, even if it does, I mean, a lot of Scarf Ubers are probably going to be able to outspeed you. In particular, Mewtwo. I'm thinking Mewtwo in particular. Scarf Mewtwo, you just die.
You get smoked.
Oh, you actually did because I do have to face this thing eventually in SDA, and I actually did calcs, just to figure out basically anything that's I want to say Shaman Sky or higher with the Scarf could outspeed this thing, even with the snow up. I think Darkrai and lower is slower. Could be wrong about that, but yeah, 127, 128 and higher. Yeah, just outspeed.
127. I forgot how fast Shaman Sky was. That's my bad.
It's very fast. So yeah, Rolder, we don't think your team is bad. Don't take us wrong, but there are a few flaws with it. So what are you thinking ranking-wise? We got King Barak currently in B. Frandy's going C.
I would put it in C as well.
Yep. Well, that makes sense.
Because I'm just imagining I don't doubt Rolder can pilot these mons, but I'm just viewing the teams as if anyone was to take this team, what's the likelihood they would be successful with it? And
I know I wouldn't.
I know I wouldn't either.
All right. Let's move on to... we put Rolder in C, and we're going to move on to the next team, which is going to be the California Trailblazers, coached by Pokemaster38. We got Palkia Origin coming out from him in round 3, which I think is a really sick mon, one that I've never seen in action, so I'm excited to talk about this one. And, well, actually, I'll start off with it, so why not? So we got Chris's team here. First thing you notice about this team, my god, this team is lightning fast. Look at these species. We got 130 on Spectre, 120 on Palkia Origin, and then we got 3 more mons at around 100, so this team is fast as hell. And it only really starts dropping off with obviously mons like Snorlax and Dondozo, but still. This team has the speed control. I like the Palkia Origin plus Spectre combo. I do have some doubts about Spectre, but I'll get to that in a minute. I like the Terra Captain on this team as well. Infernape plus Dondozo, you got your offensive Terra Captain, you got your defensive Terra Captain. We have seen from Raymond in Season 1 what a Terra Dondozo can do, and I think even in Ubers there are genuinely some Ubers that get completely stifled by Dondozo. Again, this thing gets used in the actual Uber tier to counter Koraidon, so I'm sure there's definitely some mons still here that they can wall. I like the defensive core too. There's a good mix of like Electrods, which is an amazing AV user. You got your priority with low kicks. Tinkaton is a mod that I very much considered picking up as well. So overall, like, I do like the foundation, and I can see the vision. I mean, obviously I've seen Chris's draft analysis as well, so I see the vision. Couple of downsides though. Well, first of all, this team hasn't even used up all of its points. Obviously, Chris miscounted his transactions in Grace a little bit, so there's actually supposed to be a Frost Ice on his team, which he's not allowed to get until week 2. So that's one thing. I'm just going to say I don't like Monkey Dory. I mean, it fills the role of grounded poison type on this team, which is important, admittedly, but I don't like it outside of that, and I think it's, on this team especially, it seems horribly outclassed by Spectrier. And yeah, let me get into that. I think Spectre is a fraud. I still think, you know, in bronze it sits well where it is, and, you know, a team that doesn't have a way to guard against its Shadow Balls is going to get run over by it very easily. But I've seen this thing even be used in regular draft leagues, and for what's in there, a round 1 pick, and in here a bronze Uber, I do not like this mon, I'm going to be honest. I hope that Chris can find a way to make it work. Maybe he breaks with Palkia and then he sweeps with Spectre late game, one of his other special attackers. But there's definitely some flaws that I have with this team. I also am not a big fan of the hazard control. I think Toadscroll is not a great spinner. But then again, obviously not everyone can have Great Tusk. That's kind of a given. And yeah, there are some mons on this team that I feel like are a bit flawed as well. And I'm curious to see what you guys have in it. So if you want to...
And I think this is the first time where I respectfully disagree with some of your points. Okay. I agree, yeah, Toadscroll is not the best hazard control, not the best hazard setter either, which I think is important in Ubers, like very important in Ubers. But honestly, my first thought on this team when you started mentioning the points thing, because I'm not looking at the rosters, I didn't watch any of the draft analysis. This team still has 12 fucking points left. Excuse me?
It does, yeah.
How? This is the best team we've looked at so far, like, by far.
Well, that I agree on.
We've looked at so far.
That I do agree on. I'm just trying to point out like the things that I noticed about the team, but like there's a lot of things on here that I like. Don't take me wrong. Like I said, the Terra Captains are great. I really like Palkia as a Pokemon, and Tinkaton as well.
But personally, I think Spectre gets better in Ubers. I think Spectre genuinely gets better in Ubers than in Standard, because the most common type in this format is Psychic, and yeah, sure, that both Deoxys forms are gonna outspeed you, but there's Lunala, there's Mewtwo, which you speed type with, you outspeed Solgaleo, you get outsped by Fluttermane, which sucks, but there's both Giratinas, Necrozma, like a lot of Psychic types that are gonna be very common. You're just gonna be able to shred through and take complete advantage of. I love the Terra Dondozo so much here because having very focused defenses, so Dondozo having a lot of high physical defense, not really having very good special defense, I think works very well in Ubers too, just because, like, if you're more mixed defensive, if you're a mixed defender, I don't know how the fuck you call that, your stats are generally not as well spread to handle a lot of the Ubers which have base 150, base 150, 170, you know, all these high attacking stats. Meanwhile, with Dondozo, you're able to wall off so much of the best Pokemon on the board, particularly Zacian because you ignore Intrepid Sword, Groudon because you're so bulky, Rayquaza generally likes to run physical sets, although it didn't get drafted, and because you're Terra, you're even able to wall off Zekrom with unaware Terra Ground, unaware Terra Grass, something like that. You're able to wall off Zekrom, which is insane.
Yeah.
I think
Terra Dondozo is amazing.
A lot of matches are going to be just Terra Dondozo insta-walls this. You have this as like a pretty damn blanket check for a lot of the stuff. Spectre is going to be faster than pretty much everything, and the things that it's not going to be faster than, so like Deoxys and stuff, you have the Dondozo plus the Snorlax for, which is a very good defensive core, and if you're able to get off a Spore with Toadscroll, you've shut off another one of your opponent's either offensive or defensive pieces, which is great. I think Monkey Dory at base 106 is also very good speed control for a lot of opposing fighting types, because a lot of them hit like that base 100, base 90. Like, honestly, a lot of Ubers hit that tier as well, which I think having that speed control for it is very good. And I don't think it's going to be made irrelevant by Spectrier. It's just going to put off a lot of pressure from Spectrier. And if you get off Toxic Chain, you just pair that with Hex, and you're able to break even harder than you otherwise would with Spectrier. And the fact that you have Terra Infernape as well scares off a lot of the normal types, which are also just more generally not as useful in this format because of how high the power level is.
Very fair. Brandon, thoughts?
I'm also have to respectfully disagree about Spectrier because, and this could just be a bias of mine, but I view Spectrier as the kind of like the I know kind of just straight up is the special version of how I view Quaquaval. So I view it as a Pokemon, both of them as like Pokemon. Like once they get going, if you don't have like an immediate answer, it's kind of hard to just stop them from doing what they want to do. Especially since, and in particular for Spectrier, because that base 130 speed, like, you know, you're going to outspeed a lot of things. And because Ghost is so, at least for my, I mean, I'm pretty sure y'all agree with this, but to me, Ghost is like pretty spammable as well.
It is the most spammable type in the game, brother.
So it's like, yeah. So yeah, you know, choice. So he could throw a choice scarf on this thing and then just have at it, and then, you know, he can just catch people off guard and then just sweep. Granted, I know he's not going to do that every week, and I'm not saying you should do that. Please don't. But I'm just saying, you know, it's like an option. But and I do think like his team. Well, I'm gonna just go ahead and say it now because I know he's waiting to hear what I have to say about it. I personally have a very low opinion of Monkey Dory. But hey, it's here. It's here. I do agree that Monkey Dory is you know, it's, you know, pretty. I guess he's fast a little bit. I guess he hits kind of hard. But to me, I don't know. When I try to draft my grounded poisons, I kind of want them to, you know, have a little bit of meat on their bones. And when I look at Monkey Dory, I don't feel like it has any defensive integrity. He already knows I feel this way. But that's just me and Monkey Dory. But outside of that, I think that the team overall is, you know, he's great. Palkia Origin, I've used that thing before. Amazing. I already spoke about Spectrier. Infernape is, well, it's my second favorite Pokemon after Cinderace. And and after using it a lot in Smogon, this is another thing. I feel like his team is like versatile in what they can do. Because Palkia, like, it has, even though they only hold one item, its move pool is just crazy. Spectrier is kind of limited, but it, you know, it makes up for it in different ways. Infernape, special, physical, support, it can do anything. And then when you go down the list, like all these other Pokemon, they can just pretty much do different things, which I really like.
Something else I want to point out is I love low kicks just as a whole in UBERS. Having the best first impression. The best first impression button in the game is so good in a psychic-filled meta. Like this team hates psychics, and by hates I mean like it hates them so much it's gonna murder them every game.
Yep.
And something I've learned about low kicks in draft as well, since it does always carry first impression. Well, not okay. Well, actually, yeah, always. Since it tends to always carry first impression, I've noticed that a lot of people, you know, our first thought to counter that is, let's just protect on first impression. And something I've been seeing more and more, I'm not sure if Chris will do this, but things I've seen players do when they use low kicks, they'll just swords dance into the protect,
yeah,
and then just sucker punch their way through the game.
It's a very good mind game, yeah. It's a very good safety net, and even if you are running better, you force people to run protect. That in itself is a W, you know.
Yeah, I mean, even then, it's just like you don't even need to SD up. Just go out into let's just say it's your they protect with a psychic type. Okay, let me just go into my Spectrier. You're all of a sudden forced into your normal type. Okay, I'm out to Terra Infernape. I'm gonna Terra fighting close combat everything on your team. It's like it's 50-50 hell, which I think is perfect for UBERS.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Chris has put a very strong team together that also like he can really capitalize on strong momentum positions. And the Palkia, like after all of this, you're still gonna have that Palkia to deal with, which I think, again, I do think is the combination of those two is what does make me a little bit more forgiving for Spectrier. Because if there was no support for Spectrier on this team, I would have definitely called it a fraud. But at least Chris made the effort of, you know, putting in other special attackers that can help it break through the tanky normal and dark types. So I'm very down to be proven wrong. What are you thinking ranking wise?
A.
I was
That's without even. That's with 12 points left over, by the way.
Yeah, no,
Like, you just put another 12-pointer on this team. You're good.
I think it could
he's
potentially jump
only
up
missing
to
cross
S.
class.
I think it could jump up to S if he really makes use of those 12 points. I think right now it's definitely A, but I like Chris's team a lot. Again, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think it's very good.
I also think it's an A team. I think it's A as well.
Right.
Oh, by the way, because I noticed none of us brought up this Pokemon, and I just generally want to know y'all's opinion on it. What do y'all think about Snorlax and UBERS? I genuinely have no idea what to think about this thing in UBERS.
Snorlax and UBERS is weird. I think it's better as, like, honestly, I think it's way better as, like, the one Whirlwind button in this game.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Having
Whirlwind is so fucking good.
I just feel like it's
so
one of those things.
Good.
I feel like it's one of those things where it's like it's exactly what it is in the game as well. It's just a roadblock for certain things, and I do I have, spoiler alert, I have Snorlax's pre-evolution Munchlax on my team, and I was looking at that thing's stats. I was like, yo, this is an NFE, and this is pretty good. And Snorlax is an upgrade. I'm like, hell yeah, it's not that bad. I like it.
It's like. And going back to the thing I said about Dondozo, and rather than being very focused on physical defense, Snorlax is very focused on special defense. So it's also going to be able to function as like a band-aid check for a lot of high-tier Ubers, which I think works on a team like this that only wants to stop that offense to facilitate its own, rather than trying to stop that offense on a very hyper-offensive team. So it's going to be a very passive piece of shit, like Reggie Rock.
Yeah, definitely.
On the first team.
My favorite part of Chris's team is easily his two Terracats. Like, Infernape and Dondozo are fantastic choices. Anyway, let's move on to the next team, the two-time former champion of the Mamoswine Doubters, owning the Pokemon Viola and being graduated to Pokemon Scarlet. We got the Mamoswine Doubters, coached by Raymond, who picked up not only his signature Chen Pao from that first team, but also Giratina, or as we'll be mostly referring to it this season, Girly Tina, which I think is a hilarious nickname. So who wants to start off with this one?
Oh, I didn't know we were calling it Girly Tina. Did it transition? My bad.
Apparently so. There's a really funny video out there, and I'll link you after this video. It's quite hilarious. But anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, my first thoughts are just, I love Xianpao in Ubers. I think Xianpao, like Spectrier, gets better in Ubers than it is in Standard.
Yep.
And, I mean, because having 135 base speed, you're an Ice Dark type, which means you counter the two most common types in Ubers, being Dark and Dragon. And, like, I think it's honestly super worthy of being a round one pick. Like, I think a lot of people would just be like, oh, pick one of the box art legendaries or something like that. No, I think Xianpao's not a steal for silver. I think it belongs in silver. It very much belongs there. But I think it's one of the best silver Pokemon.
This motherfucker
I genuinely think it's one of the best.
Yeah, this motherfucker was in bronze in the BBL, so we definitely had to move that shit up.
Oh my god, really? No. Base 135, you counter Psychics and Dragon. That's all you really need. You've hit very hard. You command speed control. Like,
yep.
You command a priority. You command Mach Punch. You get so much control over prep just with this one Pokemon, and you counter most of the other stuff on the board. Like, you beat Groudon, you beat Lunala, you beat Mewtwo, you beat most of the Deoxys forms, you don't beat Ho-Oh. That's like the one thing you don't beat. Like, you don't beat Ho-Oh, but you beat Kiramoy with Sacred Sword, you beat Palkia Origin in speed because it can't even run a Scarf, you beat Rayquaza, you beat Solgaleo, you beat Zekrom, like, you beat everything.
Well, I got some things to say about this team of my own. First of all, I really like this team. I mean, obviously Gray had a few Grace transactions that he made, which is mainly moving the Terra Captain status from Ogerpon Wellspring onto Sandy Shocks and Shaman, which I think is a good decision for him. Well, I would not have made the decision myself, personally, because I said it in my draft analysis as well, but I'm more comfortable with having one really strong Terra Captain than having a weaker one. I can understand why Raymond did it, though. He really likes to have... he didn't want his team to be as centered around Ogerpon Wellspring and get much more value out of Sandy Shocks and Shaman. Like, he wanted those two to have bigger roles and not just raw support for Ogerpon. It's just something that he's more comfortable with, which I can respect. I think, outside of the whole fairy coverage, I think Chen Pao, amazing round one pick, super anti-meta. And Giratina as well, Giratina Alt. This is Giratina Altered, so he can actually hold an item. Is a very solid support ring as well. This thing is insanely tanky. Like, I did not realize just how insanely tanky Giratina was when I had a relook at its stats.
The best part is, in synergy with Xianpao, it kept defog, so you're gonna be able to run, like, choice band, you're gonna be able to run real items on Xianpao a lot of weeks, because your removal is Giratina Origin, Galarian Weezing, two very good pieces of removal, and Kamala, but like,
Kamala,
what are you gonna do?
Indeed, Kamala is not a useless. Kamala's not a useless mon by any means, and if he really wants to keep his own stuff up, he can opt to go for that. But yeah, I think Xianpao Giratina is an incredible core. Like, just for reference,
having Blaziken on top of that is also an insane win con.
Yep, this Giratina, for the record, can survive from full health if it's physically defensive. Giratina can survive a choice-banded outrage from Rayquaza. It literally, no Haban Berry required. It can live that shit from full health. So
to be fair, you don't want to be doing that, but I get what you're saying.
No, of course not. But it's like that's an insanely strong, super effective attack, and it just lives it like it's nobody's business. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of Jirachi in Standard, but if you use Jirachi right, if you like a Jirachi, you're gonna get a lot of mileage out of Jirachi. I personally don't like using it, but it has a lot of potential, and I like it a lot on this team. Very good pivot, switches into the fairy, switches into the steals, like it switches out on them, you Thunder Wave stuff. I think defensive utility Jirachi is the most useful in UBERS, and Serene Grace is just, like, not reliable at all, and you're not going to be doing much damage to the dragons. But you have very useful utility. You have Thunder Wave, you have U-Turn, you have Stealth Rocks, and I think that's mainly what you're going to be using it as, and I love Sandy Shocks in a utility role. Terra Sandy Shocks is more of an offensive Pokemon, but you're still going to be able to bring those utility sets if you want to bring Shaman as your Terra Pokemon. So, I mean, you just do the thing you do with Sandy Shocks. You Spikes, you Stealth Rocks, you Thunder Wave, you Volt Switch, you Earth Power, you Thunderbolt. You do whatever you want with it. You do Screens. I think Screens is insanely underrated on that mon as well.
Yep. It's, Raymond does not... One thing about Raymond is he does not have a Ghost type, so he cannot block Rapid Spin naturally, but Terra Ghost Sandy Shocks is absolutely a viable option, too, to block all the Rapid Spins.
There's a Giratina.
Oh, sorry, you just Giratina. Whoops, you do. I was looking at the rest of the team for some reason.
There's a whole Giratina right there.
For some reason, my brain blanked on it because I really wanted to mention the Terra Ghost option, but no, there's definitely a Giratina, which is an amazing spin blocker, by the way. Forget what I was saying. But yeah, I like the Galarian Weezing as well. Obviously, there is this mon that he picked up because he got sniped off Azumarill, which is his favorite Pokemon of all time. But I still think it's a really, really solid mon to this team. Gives him a grounded poison, gives him T-Spikes, gives him another defogger if Giratina wants to be offensive. And yeah, this is Raymond is a very big enthusiast of Blaziken as well, which this season is the first time in BHTL history in which it is allowed to have speed boost. And I really like it, like, as another win con on this team. So I've drafted alongside Raymond. I know exactly what he's cooking with this, so I personally kind of know the vision. But I think it's a sick team. But yeah, Brandon, if you
I think it's our first. I think it's our first ask personally. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Samurott here. I generally think the only problem with this team is that the only one you're never gonna get value out of is Samurott, because you already have an offensive water type. I think if you swap out that Samurott for like a low tier Sticky Webber or something like that, you're like the best team in the league. But I may be biased, because I like a lot of the mons on this team, but to be fair, I also don't like a lot of the mons on this team. I don't like Jirachi personally, I don't like Blaziken personally, so I have bias against those mons, but this is still an S tier team, in my opinion.
Yeah, Brendan, you got something to say?
Yeah, I like his teams. I feel like, first of all, the round one Xianpao, especially for him, just great. And because, like Frandy pointed out, this thing is just so good offensively into most of the things in the Uber tier. And then I'm just biased to love Giratina. Just one of my favorite Pokemon from when I was a kid. And I remember you brought up how this thing is like super bulky. So as you can imagine, like this thing he's gonna be able to get a lot of mileage out of it throughout a game. And then, someone might think, oh yeah, the Giratina is almost dead. Finally, I'm done having to deal with this thing. Something I like about Jirachi being with Giratina, Jirachi gets Healing Wish. So 2 rounds with Giratina, that does not sound pleasant. Does not sound pleasant at all.
I forgot about Healing Wish. Completely forgot that it got Healing Wish. No, that's a very good point. Having Healing Wish on any Uber's team, honestly, is just very good. Just being able to basically bring it back to life is insane.
And in general, it also gets regular Wish with U-turn, so he can also just pivot the Wish into any of his other mons that So I see the potential with Jirachi on this team.
Oh no, I see the
Especially
vision. I just don't like using it.
Yeah, I had it in like what was it, season 3? I actually loved it in season 3. That's how we. Matter of fact, Jirachi is the reason we have a very famous meme in the BHDL server. I don't have the power to just make it appear on screen, so hopefully you guys can visualize it. You should know what it is, everybody. But hey, Jirachi's a legend in BHDL.
It is.
And then I like Jirachi being with Weezing because Weezing, it can be grounded poison, but it can also have Levitate, which those two they can pair very well together for a good defensive core. And I feel like offensively, his team is just really threatening with the Chin Pao, the Ogrepon, the Terra Sandy Shogs, Blaziken. Maybe I just have a very high opinion of Shaman, but I feel like Shaman's pretty strong as well. I've never used it against Ubers, though, so I don't know how far it goes, but I do know, like, the other aforementioned Mon's pretty great. I think but like Frandy, I also think this is like an S team as well, even though I have very low opinion of Kamala and Samurott, but everything else, I really love those Mons.
Yeah, I think for lower tier picks, they're honestly fine. And Kamala definitely, again, if he really wants to have that spinner like 1 or 2 weeks in which he wants to keep up his own hazards, then he definitely can. I'm putting this in S tier.
Good enough, I just think Samurott.
Yeah, I really like Raymond's team, again, even outside of my own perspective, because again, we did get some backlash in prior seasons with, like, putting Raymond's team in S tier always because he's such a consistent player. But like, I really like this team. It ticks all of my boxes for what I think a good draft team is as well. And Samurott, yeah, it's not... You're not going to be bringing it very often, if at all. But I know why Raymond drafted Samurott. He does have a use for it. I'm just going to tell you that right now. He does have a use for it. So we'll see what he cooks with it. And he can always...
Alright, I mean...
and he can always trade it away if he really
I'll be more than happy to see it.
Yeah,
I'll be more than happy to see it.
Because if I'm being honest, when I see Samurott, to me it looks like a 9 Pokemon team. But hey... Prove me wrong.
I mean, I've used regular Samurott.
Prove me wrong, yeah.
I used regular Samurott in the GBA when I was with Jack, and that was low-key not that bad. Anyway, let's move on to the next team. Montreal Magnet Bombs, coached by a newcomer of the BHDL, Cody. And we went from talking about one Giratina to the other, because this is the Giratina origin team. And this is also
from one Giratina to another, from one Ogrepon to another.
Yep, absolutely. And this is also the team that I play in week 1, so I got some stuff to say about this one.
Ooh.
Oh, this team right here.
Yep.
Oh,
I love the Oxus Speed. I love the Oxus Speed in any Uber setting. I mean, you just kind of use it the way you did in Gen 4. I mean, you can do more than that. You probably should be doing more than that, but the way you do it in Gen 4 Ubers, you just set up hazards, you taunt, you set up hazards, you vomit them out, and you let the rest of your team go crazy, which the rest of this team can go very crazy.
They absolutely can, yeah. So I got some very nice things about this team. Obviously, I do think, despite Cody getting sniped, he did originally want the Zalma Sensei Hero as a round 2 pick, which I think would have been even better than the Oxus Speed. But of course, I got sniped, so can't have them all. But I still think this core is absolutely incredible. You get 2 amazing utility mons right off the board. You get your Defogger, you get your priority with extreme speed, you get your speed control in general. You get some hazards, you get fast screens, and like both of these mons, they still hit very hard. Obviously, the Oxus Speed, 180 speed can easily run offensive natures and Life Orb or Specs if it wants to. Giratina Origin obviously cannot hold an item, but it does get Grease's Core, which boosts the power of its stabs even further, and we all know how busted Ghost Dragon is offensively, like especially when combined. There's a lot of bulk on this team too. I really like Azumarill and Ubers. I think it's definitely a good mod. I mean, Belly Drum kind of sucks ass, but AV, fantastic. There's a lot of things this thing can do. Isui and Gudra, also a very amazing special tank. And there's a lot of bulk in this team in general. Like, this is bulky offense incarnate. He's also got the Terra Ursaluna, which I think is an amazing Terra Captain. He doesn't really have a great Trick Room set. I mean, the Oxus Speed can set Trick Room, but it's kind of like anti-synergy with it.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. But even without Trick Room, honestly, Ursaluna is just an amazing tank. It can set up with bulk up. I do also now realize that I'm giving him ideas with this, but you know what? I don't care. I think it's a really solid Terra Captain, and our Believer, I mean, we've seen PokeMD put in work with this thing. I really, really like Cody's Terra Captains. These are very good, and I really like how our Believer was eyed by a lot of other like he sniped at least 2, if not more, coaches when he got this thing. So there were multiple people eyeing this thing.
Yeah.
Quaquaval and Ogerpon Hearthflame, I think, are amazing mons in their own right, although I'm not a massive fan of Ogerpon Hearthflame, just because it's obviously, a fire type that can't hold heavy duty boots, but it's not like Cody doesn't have good hazard removal. He has excellent hazard removal, so that's not a big option on this team. So, like, I'm not a big fan of Ogerpon Hearthflame in a vacuum, but I do really like it on this team specifically. And, yeah, I think, honestly, this is a really solid team. However, I do have one massive criticism at this team, and that is the fact that there's a very big lack of pivots. Obviously, Quaquaval has U-turn, Ogerpon Hearthflame has U-turn, and, but that's it. Yeah, that's literally it. There's bulk, but there's no pivoting. So I feel like once you lose momentum with this team, it's really, really rough to try and get it back, genuinely. And there's also a sometimes little thing that Okidogi, even though it is a really solid grounded poison type, it does not learn Toxic Spikes. That is definitely a little bit annoying, that I had, like a problem that I had when I had Pheasantipity as well. None of the loyal 3 get Toxic Spikes. So those are some criticisms that I have. But overall, I really like Cody's team, and it's definitely a team that I would pilot myself as well. I mean, Giratina Origin's my favorite legendary, so yeah, I really like it.
I agree with all the issues you have, and I have one more big issue and one more minor nitpick. So as for the big issue, your dark type is a Morgrim. Both of your main core is weak to Ghost, and your Ghost type cannot run Choice Scarf. There is no speed control with that Giratina because it is pigeon-held into the Grisius core, I think. Yeah, the Grisius core. And so your only way of beating opposing psychic types is Shadow Snake, and don't get me wrong, it's a pretty damn strong Shadow Snake, but I also don't think it's going to be enough to really circumvent your big ghost psychic well, okay, it's not a big ghost weakness because you have 2 normal types, but your psychic weakness, yeah, Hisui and Gudra is not enough to carry you against all psychic types, especially if you cannot, offensively threaten them, which Hisui and Gudra really can't. I think it's only regular Gudra that gets knockoff.
Nope,
yeah?
Hisui and Gudra does get knockoff.
Oh, okay, then that's not as bad. You're not losing. You're not losing to Call My Lunala.
The only.
I thought it was losing to Call My Lunala. That's my bad.
The only real
the
only real crippling thing that Hisui and Gudra does not get that regular Gudra does get is Scald. It does not get Scald, but it does get knockoff.
Ah, okay. Okay, I did not. Okay, I didn't know it got knockoff, so that's okay. That's not as bad. Morgrim being your dark type is still not the best thing in the world, but it's you can circumvent that with Hisui and Gudra. The minor nitpick is also just Azumarill and Quaquaval on the same team. I just don't like that. I think of those two as 2 offensive waters. You don't really have a defensive water on this team, which I mean that could be fine. Again, it's a minor nitpick. I personally wouldn't do that. You can do that. If you do it well, you can do it well. It's just, I don't like it. That's about it.
Sorry, yeah. Brandon?
Well, I do have, let me get the minor nitpicks out, and I do mean they're minor. They're minor. Just, so, Giratina Origin, you have, from what I can recall, the 3 ghost stab moves people want to use the most commonly would usually, well, actually one of them's not even common. It's just Shadow Sneak. I think of Shadow Sneak, Hex, and whatever its signature move is called, Shadow Force. That no one.
Shadow Force is 2 turns. You don't usually use it. It usually uses Poltergeist. Poltergeist is really good.
Oh, it gets Poltergeist. I did not know that.
Yeah, it gets Poltergeist. Oh, that's insane.
That is insane. I was gonna say, because so a minor nitpick, because I know just from my experiences with using Giratina, I like to use Hex sets, and this is why it's a minor nitpick. I don't see a lot of ways to spread hazards. Oh my goodness, spread status outside of using Giratina itself to
or a very unreliable toxic chain Okidogi.
Yep.
Yeah, because I just know with Giratina, usually when I see Giratina do well, it typically does well when it has a teammate that can come in and typically T-wave things. Since Giratina is I think base 90, which for UBERS average, but in a vacuum not good at all. And
you can do well with status spam and then Hex, obviously.
Yeah, so it's that's why it's a minor nitpick, because that's really not a requirement or anything. And I guess another minor nitpick, and it kind of just depends on how people view this. The team, from what I can see, has a pretty big flying weakness, which I feel like flying is a good offensive typing if you have something on your team that can actually take advantage of it, which for the most part is not common, which is why I say it's a minor one. But because like the Quackaball, the Ogerpon, the Arboliva, the Ogie Dogie, and I mean he has the Goodra.
If there's like a Scarf Brave Bird user, like if you run into a Scarf Staraptor, there's not much you can really do about that.
Because it can just CC the Goodra.
Yeah, and especially because none of his walls really have reliable they have reliable recovery somewhat, quote unquote, with Arboliva's Seed Sower, but it doesn't really,
I mean, any strong Brave Bird button does pretty damn good against this team, which, to be fair, they're pretty few and far between. But in a Terra meta, you just go Terra Flying and you go kind of crazy.
And just make sure your Flying type has a fighting coverage, and then boom, Goodra's handled for the most part.
Yeah, and I feel like that's not as common as we're making it out to be, but it's still a pretty big problem, even if it is just, my Hurricane Answer is just Hisui and Goodra. Like, that's pretty exploitable.
Yep.
Yeah, and one thing I will give Ogerpon, though, even though it doesn't, it can't hold, like, boots or anything as a fire type, which I do think really sucks, it does have a pretty strong, Horn Leech is pretty strong coming from this thing, so at least it has a way to, somewhat circumvent the damage it's taking, because it can just keep getting the damage back. But like you guys pointed out, I do kind of also dislike that his walls can't really, like, nothing roosts, nothing slacking off, nothing's recovering.
Yeah, no, reliable recovery's not here.
And
other than Arboliva, it's literally just Arboliva with Synthesis, and that's it.
Well, Quackaball does get
UBERS,
to be fair.
Yeah, but Quackaball's not a wall.
Oh, no, it's not. I'm just saying there is reliable recovery on that mono, technically.
Like, look, I'm sorry. If you're trying to use Quackaball as like a defensive rapid spin utility Pokemon, you're in the wrong format. This is UBERS. You cannot afford to do that.
Nope.
And that's another thing, just going back to something I mentioned with I believe I mentioned this with Rolder's team. Giratina is a very, I feel like it's a pretty strong, I feel like it's an amazing hazard remover. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it's the best hazard remover in UBERS. But after Giratina, I don't see any, I feel like the default can be exploited by some, there's going to be ways you can exploit it. And then outside of default, I just see the Quackaball, who I know, me personally, I wouldn't want to run Rapid Spin on every
week. Yeah, it
week.
often can't fit Rapid Spin. That's a little issue in this.
But I do think the team, I see how the team comes together. But, just like little minor things, I just feel like, if he could just fix this or this, it could help the team out.
Let's get it ranked. I'm personally thinking A or B. I don't know what you guys are on. I do think it's a really good team. Just a few minor issues.
I think it's
There's a lot of minor. I think there are enough minor. Like, this team is good. It's not great.
I like it more than King Barras' team, but not as much as Chris's team. So I'm thinking like a little higher on B.
I think it's a high B. It's a high B. I don't think it's as low of a B as King Burra, but it's still a B.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Got that one ranked, and first of all, let's pick up the pace a little bit because we're already an hour in and we're not even halfway done. So let's do that.
What the fuck?
Yep. And then this next team is one that I'm only going to be touching on very shortly because it is my team, the coach of the L.E.A.F agents, piloted by yours truly, and I'm very excited to see what you guys have to say about this one. So I'll just sit back.
This is the best team in the league.
Okay.
This is the best team in the league.
Go ahead, Frankie.
Care. I do not care. This is the best team in the league. There's no competition. There's nothing. No, Lunala Great Tusk is one of the best cores you can get. Period. Meowscarada is insanely good. Not just speed control, not just anti-meta. Hazards as well. Like having hazard support to support your offense. You have the best spinner in the game, so those spikes, those hazards are gonna stay up. Those that you can very reliably set, they all have beautiful offensive synergy. Like Terra Iron Moth is insanely synergistic with all of your team and just good in general as a Pokemon. D-Knight is insanely good speed control with extreme speed. It's a good dragon, which I mean, it's not as impactful as it is in standard because obviously this meta has a lot more dragons and most of those dragons are going to be faster, but it's still very good speed control. It's still a threat. And because there's a lot of other dragons, you can hit a lot of other dragons super effectively. Sylveon is the best, like one of the best non-Uber fairy types in the format, bar none. Vikavolt gives you insanely good speed control with Sticky Web, Thunder Wave. Minior is a low-tier threat with Shell Smash and Terra Blast because, I mean, any Terra with Shell Smash is going to be a little impactful, even if I don't think you're ever going to be bringing it over Iron Moth. But if you do, then that's good for you. And then Munchlax is like the best 2-pointer in the game or something like that. I think it's
only 1
points.
point.
Oh, okay, then you guys can't tier. Cool.
And
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's not us that can't tier. We just took most of these loaders from the BBL, bro. That's their fault.
Oh, then they can't tier. Okay, that makes more sense, actually. The only Pokemon that I slightly dislike is Empoleon, but even then, that's just a personal preference, because, I mean, it's pretty bulky, but it's not like that bulky, and then a lot of Ubers get Thunderbolt or Focus Blast, so it's not really gonna do its function as well as I think it could. But even then, pretty reliable rocker, so that Tusk doesn't have to do that, and it gets Flip Turn, and that's all you really need. Like, every single Pokemon on this team is a Pokemon that you can bring and get value out of. I think, like, it's just, like, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss.
I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you so much. Brandon, you got your thoughts?
Well, first of all, the more I hear her talk about it, the more I'm just happy that in the 9 weeks that, we have games. As of right now, I am not scheduled to play Scorpion.
First season of Beat Still, in which Brandon and I are not facing off in the regular season.
And for once, I'm actually kind of happy, because the more I look, because like coming into this, I was kind of just like, I'm like just one take dragging it. So, this is like my first time really glancing at the teams. And like, now that I'm really looking at this team on paper, it's like, hell yeah, why am I not playing this? Because you just have a lot of, first of all, every single Mon on this team is strong offensively and defensively. The only thing that's not like a defensive piece is Meowscarada. But even then, it really doesn't matter with everything else you have. Like
Minior.
I mean, Minior. I thought Minior was like kind of on the bulky side though. But
it
only
is
when
until it gets to 50% HP, and then it has
only before
absolutely zero
shields down
bulk, and its defensive typing is ass. So.
Yep.
Hey, but listen, I would hope that. Well, listen, one thing I know about Minior is by that point, you done shell smashed, and this thing is just sweeping. That's one thing I know about Minior. Actually, it's the only thing I know about Minior. I don't know a lot of things about Minior. But
That's
yeah,
all
I
you
think
need
the
to know
team
about
is
Minior.
like,
It doesn't do much else.
But I do think like the team is like really great, and then also the team is very. Like I mentioned with like Chris's team, the team is just really versatile in what it can do. Like none of these Mons have a set role. Like any of these Mons can do just about anything, and I just know like. Once again, I'm glad I don't have to play this team, because having to prep for this and having to account for this, and that with free Terra, even though we do have Terra preview, but the fact that free Terra is there, it's just like, yeah, it's not my headache. You guys got it, not mine.
Yeah, no, it's like, everything synergizes with each other. Like, Great Tusk doesn't like flying types. Oh, okay, then let me just like run Terra Electric. Like, flying types are like the only thing that you don't really hit offensively, but like Great Tusk doesn't like water types. Okay, I got Meowscarada. Meowscarada doesn't like fire types. Great Tusk covers for that. Tusk doesn't like grass types. Iron Moth, perfect for that. Like, Lunala doesn't like dark types. Great Tusk is insane at both switching into those and eliminating those. Meowscarada has the U-turn button, which is always great. And then, yeah, Sylveon is great for that. Sylveon and Great Tusk, one is physically defensive, one is specially defensive. The specially defensive one has Wish to further support the physical attacking one, which is also one of the biggest threats on your team. The Dragonite doesn't like ice types. You have a 4x ice resist. Like, everything here is not only versatile, but perfectly synergistic with each other. And I love that for a team.
Well,
and something I also think is... And something I find very scary, you have to get through whatever five, like, let's just put Lunala to the side, right? Whatever team he brings every single week, you have to get through those 5 Pokemon. And then there's always the looming threat of an in-game Lunala who, because of, I forgot what the ability is called, but I know it's functionally the same thing.
Shadow Shield, yeah.
Which is functionally the same thing as multi-scale from how I understand it. Yeah, your team's cracked, bro. It's pretty cracked.
Yeah, that's
It's
one thing I
cracked.
do like about this team of being underrated starters. I have a Shadow Shield Pokemon and a multi-skill Pokemon, and both of these are supported by the best Rapid Spinner in the game. So good luck breaking them with my
Yep.
hazards.
Yeah, no, it's insane.
So yeah, no, I've obviously, if you guys want to hear my thoughts on my team, please go and watch my draft analysis. I'll leave a link in the description down below. But I really, really like my team. It's an absolute dream getting to pilot Lunala. If nothing else, I just really like this mon. And Terra Iron Moth as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing what it can do. Because Iron Moth has been in my eyes since Season 1, and I never got to draft it. And now it's a Terra character.
I've used Terra Iron Moth. It is a demon.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing
It is demonic.
The only sad part about Iron Moth is knowing my luck. I will literally never get a Fiery Dance boost. That is the only complaint I have about Iron Moth. I already know my luck.
Run flamethrower.
Yeah,
honestly,
I
don't think you're gonna get that. Just use flamethrower.
Yep, that's probably what I'm thinking will happen. But yeah, I heard you guys say it, so let's just put it in S tier. Is it above or below Raymond?
Above.
Above.
I think you know my opinion. It's above.
Yeah, alright, fair. Well, again, I'm honestly just very glad to hear that, so thank you guys so much. Again, please go and watch my draft analysis if you want to hear my own thoughts on my team. Next up, let's pick up the pace a little bit for this one. Shorter points, but because I'm going to be here all freaking day, let's give these teams the credit they deserve. So, Icy Dude, coach of the Neverdying Annihilapes, and the team with Zekrom, which I really, really like, and also the Terra mascot Annihilate, which I think is sick. So, I guess we'll start off with this one, because I didn't get to talk about my own team that much. So Icy Dude.
Holy.
So Icy
Okay, no,
Dude.
sorry.
Icy Dude is reminiscent in this league for usually drafting very, very bulky teams, and this team is, for the most part, no exception. You've got your Zekrom, which is
No different.
obviously offensive, but still a very bulky mon. And Electric Dragon is an amazing typing. You got the Annihilate, which is obviously a tank and a very scary setup sweeper, even without Terra, but with Terra it becomes nuts. He's got the core of Gliscor, Screamtail, Heatran, and Blastoise. Well, first of all, Gliscor and Heatran is an incredible core, because these two cover each other offensively and defensively literally perfectly. Obviously, Heatran having a 4 times resistance to Ice, which Gliscor is 4 times weak to, and Gliscor being immune to Ground, which Heatran is 4 times weak to. Now, these weaknesses, obviously, if multiple Pokemon can carry, like, Ice Ground coverage, like a Mamoswine would obviously rip through this core with relative ease. But then there's also the bulky Water of Blastoise, which also adds another spinner to your team. I think the speed control obviously is not stellar, but Iron Bundle being at a base 136 with a Freeze Dry that really threatens a lot of the UBERS, I think is amazing. It's not like this team is passive either, because you got monsters like Zekrom and Landorus Incarnate to put on offensive pressure. Obviously, Landorus is a really good mixed attacker, but mainly special. Zekrom can easily go mixed. Obviously, it's insanely powerful physically, but let's not forget that this thing also has like a base 120 or 110 special attack, so that's no problem. You got your grounded poison type and your spike with. Look at the stealth rock section of this team, bro. There's 6 rockers on this bloody team.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. That's why I apologize for interrupting you there for a second. I just looked at that hazard section and it's like, oh,
yeah, that is hilarious.
Like,
there's
honestly,
two great spikers on this. There's 2 great spikers on this team as well.
I respect not even having removal. Don't even bother. They're the one who's gonna be trying to remove it, because you're just vomiting hazards out left and right.
Yep, there is amazing hazard tech
people
on this
are
team.
gonna shit.
There's amazing hazard tech on this team, and the core on this team as well is the Annihilate, which is not only an amazing spin blocker before it terras, but even after it terras, it can beautifully punish Defog with Defiance. So I really like the sort of vision with Icy Dude's team. I can absolutely see it. And I mean, I don't know what you guys have to say, but there's no immediate flaws that I could spot. I really like this team, and Zekrom, like, this team would literally be good without Zekrom. But then, like Brandon said, with my team with Lunala, the frickin' Zekrom is always in the back, and with how easily this team can wear you down over time, that Zekrom is going to come in, it's going to drag him down once, and it just wins the game. So yeah, I think this team is amazing. Good job, Icy.
Yeah. The thing that immediately jumps out to me is people are gonna shit on double ground flying. I don't think that's a problem at all, honestly.
No, me neither.
I really don't.
I like the 2 different roles they play, and I think
Yeah.
you really don't have to bring both of them to a game. Like, I think, and again, he's got plenty of ice resistance. Iron Bundle was a 4 times resistant to ice, so is Heatran. Blastoise can take them well. Yeah, like, what's there not to like, really?
Like, you have Screamtail as well to wish up those, like the Heatran and the Blastoise, neither of which get reliable recovery, but you do have reliable support with Wish, at the very least, and Screamtail is fast enough to the point where having fast encore is just incredible. Like, especially in UBERS, having fast encore is really, really, really good. Fast Thunder Wave, like, I love Screamtail as a fairy, especially in UBERS. That's one of the best. That's like up there with Sylveon. Like you said, Gliscor and Landorus fill entirely different roles from each other. One wants to just vomit out hazards, be a bulky piece of shit, immune to status. It's a status sponge for this team, which is great. And then Landorus is just a nuke button, which serves its purpose very well because, like, you're the breaker, Bundle's the cleaner, Zekrom is the physical setup sweeper, so is Annihilate. Having those, like, setup spam is always going to be good in Gen 9. It's just the environment that you want for as setup spam. And Hisui and Quillfish, good dark type, good bulk, and just also vomits out hazards if Gliscor for some reason wants to do something else. Like, it's a very versatile team, like, which is very weird because you wouldn't think it would be just looking at the typings alone. And the fact that your only ghost to resist is Hisui and Quillfish, no normal type, no nothing, is honestly kind of fine because of how bulky Hisui and Quillfish is. And most ghosts, most psychics, even in UBERS, are probably not going to be able to break it in one shot. And you just come in with, like, Scarf Annihilate, which is very much viable, or, like, Zekrom or Iron Bundle, or just... You punish them. I feel like you do punish them.
Yeah, literally my only criticism is at this team is Annihilate is 19 points as a Terra Captain, the same with Iron Moth. Unlike me, Icy did not pick up a secondary Terra Captain, but honestly, that's not that big of a deal, because I do think... You were never
bringing anything else anyway.
Yeah, like, Annihilate is good enough on this team to get the job done by itself, and like his points are very well spent, you know? Like, this is perfectly zero points down to the drain. I really like the distribution.
And yeah, I think very highly of this team as well. Before I looked at the team, I saw, oh crap, 9 Mons, so I just assumed at first I would look through it and just be like, huh. But nah, I think this team's amazing. Even with like 9 Mons. I'm not really sure how important it is to have more than 9, but I feel like even with just 9, this team is like, everything's phenomenal in this team and what they can do.
Yeah.
Especially the Annihilate.
Let's get it ranked. What are we thinking?
Probably a low S tier, high A tier.
I could agree with that, yeah. I think it's S, actually. I think it's good enough to be an S. Probably maybe not as high as my own, judging by how you guys were reacting to it. But is it above or below Raymond's team? That's the question.
Below Raymond.
I think it's below Raymond. It's definitely below Raymond.
Right, yeah. I can agree with that. But it's still a really solid team. I'm glad I'm not facing this team, because, funnily enough, I'm actually 0-2 against Icy in the draft. He's beaten me both times we played. So hopefully we can settle that score in playoffs. That'll be fun.
Well, I play on week 3, so yeah, I'm gonna have fun.
All right, next up is another newcomer to the BHDL. We have the El Paso Pokemon Club, coached by Lucario Man. So, Brandon, you want to start off with this one?
Okay, so he, I feel like Lucario's Man's team is very strong offensively. His first 2 draft picks in the Flutter Mane, Urshifu Rapid, very, very, very strong offensive mons, especially in particular in Ubers too. Well, granted they are Ubers, so of course it's where they're going to be strong at. But then even the Iron Boulder, very strong, very fast mon. Like the I'm trying to see pretty strong fast mon. Only thing I don't really like is I feel like his speed tiers are kind of, unless I'm missing something, I'm seeing 135, 124, 115, and then it just drops down to Hydreigon.
111, 98, 97, 81, and then to 52.
Oh,
which is fine.
Actually, that's not as bad
No,
as I thought it was.
it's perfectly fine.
I think these are great, yeah, honestly.
Yeah, I just thought Hydreigon was like a lot slower than that. Oh, well, I'm just tripping there.
No, it's 98.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, never mind. Speed tiers are actually pretty good too. Then, and he has like a pretty strong wall in the Toxapex. Another strong wall in the Fortress. They also synergize pretty well together too. I feel like he put together a pretty good team. The only thing, Fortress can be a good hazard remover from what I can see, from what I have seen with my experiences with it, but I never really, me personally, I never liked only having Fortress. I mean, granted, he has Maushold, but I just know from also using Maushold that, yeah, you're not going to be able to tidy up as freely as you think you will be. But, hey, maybe he can just make it work. But what do you guys think?
Well, my biggest criticism at this team is I even though I think the Terra Captains are fine, I really don't like the presence of non-Terra Iron Boulder. I think the Iron Boulder would have made a fantastic Terra Captain on this team, and it's not, so I don't like that. Other than that, I mean, I think the team other than that is fine. Another criticism I have of this team is I feel like Fortress is not a great Pokemon. I don't think that mon is very good. It looks, I think it's not a fraud. I don't think it's a fraud at all, but I think Fortress is often seen as a lot better than it actually is.
It's very easily taken advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. And his only other rocker is Hydreigon, which is a mon that very often can't fit it. So the hazard game on this team is a little bit weak. Not a fan of that either. But the speed tiers are fantastic. I've had my ass handed to me by Terra Gyarados multiple times. So even though I think I really would have liked to see a Terra Iron Boulder on this team, I don't discredit the Terra Gyarados. And Terra Maushold has its own things as well. I like the presence of Ursaluna Blood Moon on this team just because it really adds some extra bulk as well as just like firepower, because I mean it's not like this team is like not lacking or sorry, it's not like this team lacks special firepower, but I just think that having a normal type this bulky that also has a little bit of priority in Vacuum Wave, like it obviously is a big weakness that it doesn't get hazards. That's definitely a downside, but I do like Blood Moon on this team. But overall, I don't really know what to think of it, because it's also like this team is not too defensive, but like there's also a Toxapex there, which I feel like its passivity is going to hold this team back a bit. But I don't really know what to think of that mon. So I'll let Friendly do the talking on this one, because I don't really know what to think of this team. Other than again,
I have a lot of just I have a fundamental problem with the way that this team is structured. So there are 3 water types. 2 are offensive. One is defensive.
Oh, I didn't realize that, because this is Urshifu Rapid Strike. Yeah,
it's Urshifu Rapid Strike. So Urshifu Rapid Strike is good. It's a good Pokemon. But look, I like Fluttermane. I think Fluttermane is really strong, especially in UBERS. Ghost Fairy, incredible typings. Like, everything good that is said about Qianpao also applies to Fluttermane, and it's arguably better.
Yep, great round 1 pick.
The problem, though, is I don't think Fluttermane is enough to carry an Uber core.
Yeah, there is no second Uber on this team. There is
no second Uber on this team. There's a lot of potential that you're wasting by not doing that, and instead you choose to do it on, like, you choose to spend the rest of your points on on Urshifu Rapid Strike, which has redundancy with your Gyarados, or Gyarados, which has redundancy with your Urshifu Rapid Strike. Get rid of one of those, probably lower the Maushold down to like a low tier normal type, replace it with like the Reshiram, but that's still on the board.
I was gonna say,
I don't care if you have Double Dragon. Double Dragon with Hydreigon works perfectly. They honestly synergize a lot.
Yeah, Reshiram is the only Uber still available in the silver tier, so either has to go with that or a bronze, like Dialga Origin.
Which is honestly still fine, but like Double Dragon with Hydreigon is not even that bad. The only weakness they share is Dragon, and you have a Fluttermane right there that is like happily coming in on any Dracos. Sure, your Fortress is pretty bad. Any physical Dragon's gonna fuck you up, but like you have Hydreigon for the speedy Dragon, because Hydreigon is base 98. It's pretty damn fast for a Dragon. And then Reshiram, you have like base 150 special attack Blue Flare. You can even run Dragon Dance. I've seen Dragon Dance run a lot. It's just, there's a lot of fundamental problems that I personally have with the way that this team is structured, because there's a lot of redundancy. There's a lot of offensive redundancy, there's a lot of defensive passivity, and those two things are just things I generally don't like, but the team is still strong. It's just, it looks more similar to a standard team than the other teams in this league, and that's a problem in my opinion.
Yeah, if you somehow like look past the Fluttermane and see it as a Misdreavus, this is a very sort of standard team. I do agree that it could really benefit from a second Uber. Yeah, let's get it ranked real quick.
B tier. It's a pretty strong. It's like a mid B tier.
Like, I'll put it in B, and I think I would also put it.
Is it above or below Kingborough?
I would put it below.
I'd put it. I mean, yeah, as much as I have problems with the way that Kingboro's defense is set up, at least its offense is good enough to make up for that. This team's offense is just kind of okay-ish, so yeah, put it below.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Right, next up is someone who is very proud of his own team, and of which it is absolutely crazy that Mewtwo made it to the 9th pick. But yeah, we have the Demewlition Force drafting their new mascot. We got Emerald Miner. So yeah, very excited to talk about this team. Let's get into it.
Wait, is Emerald Miner a new coach or a new mascot?
Oh no, he's just got a new team logo. But Emerald Miner is an absolute classic of BHDL. He's been in all 5 seasons. He's one of our commissioners. He's a very classic BHDL player. But he's got a new, because his mascot used to be Mew, hence Demewlition Force. But he got a new logo with Mewtwo on it because his round 1 pick is Mewtwo, and it's also his favorite Pokemon of all time. So I'm hoping he makes some good use of it.
Neato. Okay, I said this in chat when he drafted it. I don't get the hype around Terrazarud. I'm more than glad to be proven wrong. I don't get the hype. And I know that he also said in chat that he doesn't get the hype either and is just drafting it to see where the hype is coming from. It's just, round 2? Round 2 is a little early.
Well, I don't know if you've been following the recent season of BBL, but he's copying the PokeMMD core, because PokeMMD did the exact same thing. And in his defense, for Aim's run in the BBL, Zarude has been going absolutely crazy. So I, for one, am a Terra Zarude believer.
Aim also went crazy with a fucking Squawkabilly. Are we really, like, that guy plays singles for life.
Listen, man, it just shows the potential is there. Like, I'm gonna say it.
You could give Aim a little cup team, and he would do okay-ish, and you would see him like a god. Like, oh my, like fucking thumbnail, like, oh my god, Happini popped off for me, and it would be true. Like,
hey, listen, man, I'm seeing the way I'm seeing it. I'm a Terra Zarude believer, but you can have your doubts. We'll see how it goes this season. But anyway, go on.
I have my doubts, but you know, like, again, prove me wrong. And like, I mean, as for did you get punished for drafting at round 2? No, absolutely not. You still got Goldengo round 4, fucking somehow. That's not the most egregious thing I've seen. We'll get to that at the very end. There's one very egregious pick that somehow made it to round 7. I don't.
Oh. And then also, let's not forget the round 3 Terrapagos, which, as I've learned in drafts, when it first came out in draft, it kind of would sit to around 3 or 4, but in every draft I've been in since like the 2nd or 3rd time I've seen it, it's been a solid round 1 pick. So the fact that they made it to round 3, I do find it I find that outlandish as well. Just saying.
I don't know. I still don't get the Terrapagos hype, but that's also just because I don't think people use that thing right. I hope you use it right. I think it has a lot of potential, honestly.
And I've been, I can also, from my experience as of right now, because I'm using it in SDA, it's definitely been carrying me. So I have a high opinion and bias towards this thing. And also think this team is... Huh? Oh, my bad.
No. This team is set up pretty well, too, like, in terms of its offenses. Like, Mewtwo, Zarude synergize very well with each other. You have the setup threat of Terrapagos if Mewtwo just wants to run specs that week. Goldengo is just always good with a spike setter like Quagsire that just gets hazards out onto the field. Goldengo prevents the defog. Indeedee Hawlucha Mewtwo, like, setting up that expanding force for Mewtwo, setting up that unburdened speed control for Hawlucha, like, it's not something I personally like doing, but it has its potential, and if you position yourself correctly, it's very good.
Yep.
And then the fact that he has a terrain setter with Mewtwo. If you don't have a solid Dark type, good luck. Yeah. Expanding force to just about anything.
And as we've seen in these PRs so far, not everybody has a solid Dark type.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There is, you ain't gonna be stopping no expanding force Mewtwo with a bloody Morgrim, I can tell you that much. Alright, I personally really like Emerald Miner's team. There are some cool things in this team. I do also think that the potential is there, obviously with the whole Indeedee plus just denying Sucker Punch in general. That's also a common weapon against Mewtwo, which is kind of cool. Mewtwo in general, I think, is just an insanely big threat. Like, I think, because we banned Calyrex Ice, I think Mewtwo is actually the best Uber available on the draft board. So the fact that it made it to the 9th pick is kind of cracked. I do have one criticism about this team, however, and that is the fact that I feel like Emerald Miner heavily over-fixated on like fixing the type chart. I know he has like a little prep doc, which obviously shows you like green, so you match up against it's good.
Yeah.
A red
You want
or
to see
gray.
the green, yo.
Yeah, but like he tried so hard to make that type chart like have no red icons. And I feel like that's a good idea on paper, but not in practice. And I'm not trying to say that that's always a bad idea, because it's definitely not. You can have amazing teams with that. But the thing with this team, right, that's my main point. There's a few mons on this team that I think are properly mid. The main ones being Comfey without Terra. I think Comfey is a brutal Terra captain. But if it's not a Terra captain, and especially...
Don't remind me.
Yeah,
Don't remind me. I hate that mon so much.
Well,
and I'm using it right now.
Literally, the fucking man in the call in here with us right here has bodied me with Terra Comfey, so yeah, I don't like it either. Even though it was week 9 and I was already locked in playoffs, it didn't really matter, but still, I'll never forget it. But I don't like Comfey with no Terra, and with this team in particular, you can't really run it with Indeedee because it blocks all triage actions.
I was gonna get to that. I was like, I don't like the anti-synergy you have there, especially because Comfey's your fairy type. Yep. That's very important in UBERS.
Yeah, and Comfey is not really that bulky either, especially before any boosts. I am also not a big fan of the fact that Quagsire is his sort of main, like, actual tank, because Quagsire in an UBERS format, I think, is just not going to be as great of a defensive wall as you might think it is. And another thing I don't like about this team is, obviously you have the Indeedee, so you don't really want to be, like, stacking on priority, but just in general, there isn't that much priority on this team. Like, Sarud does not get Sucker Punch. You
don't want that much priority on this team, to be fair, because your priority Lord is also anti-synergy with your Indeedee, which is a big part of your offensive core, which then we get into the fundamental problem of making Indeedee part of your offensive core, but, like...
I still just think it's not a great thing, and I also just think that Basculin, like, I'm a little bit curious about how many times that thing is going to show up, but maybe I'm...
Probably not, but, like, I mean, how many points is it? It's like 3, not much you're going to get value out of... Like, yeah, you're not going to get much value out of, like, 3 points. Like, it's either sticky webs or a low-tier offensive water, and honestly, I think Basculin functions perfectly fine as a low-tier offensive water. I think it does its job.
Yeah.
I just think get a different bulkier fairy type if you can. If you need to get rid of the Basculin, you get rid of the Basculin, but I just don't like having that anti-synergy.
For me personally,
that anti-synergy with Comfey and Indeedee.
Yeah, this team for me is so close to being S tier, but not quite. I do think there's enough problems holding it back. But what do you guys think?
A tier. Very top of A tier. It's like the benchmark. I think this is the benchmark.
Yeah.
Well, because of y'all's comments about Basculin, now I have this ominous feeling that I'm gonna get 6-0'd by Basculin in week 7. Thank you guys so much.
It does not get Last Respects. Last Respects is banned, so don't worry.
Yeah.
If it was Last Respects Basculin, I would have said, why the fuck is that not your Terra captain?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But no, Last Respects is banned completely. Houndstone cannot use it, Basculin cannot use it. It's gone.
But I do think
as somebody who has used Baxcaliburs in UBERS with Last Respects allowed, that is criminal.
Yeah, don't ever allow that.
But I do think this team is I also think this team is like an A tier. Like, I think it's very strong offensively, but then there's like certain things like y'all pointed out with the anti-synergy, as well as just
yeah. I do think it's
something you pointed out about Quag being his main wall. The reason I really don't like Quag being his main wall, something Frandy's been pointing out throughout pretty much every team we've gone through, the most common types are Psychic, Dragon, and then Ghost is spammable. And Quag sponges those, but he doesn't, wall them.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And that's going to be the main thing.
Yeah, I think Quag is just for two very specific meta threats, those being Zacian and Zekrom. Those are the two that you are specifically targeting by drafting Quagsire. And even then, what you do with unaware mons like Quagsire is you force physical UBERS to go with a choice item or a utility role, and then you prep your team around that. Because you are never actually walling anything with Quagsire, it's just a really good prep demon. It's you are not allowed to use setup this week, because if I bring Quagsire, your Uber is useless. Do not do that. Alright, not even gonna bring Quagsire. Here are my other 6. Fuck you.
Yep.
That's more so what I think Quagsire has on this team. Because you cannot, in my opinion, you cannot risk it being, You cannot risk your Uber being made useless by like a 9-pointer.
Yeah.
You can't risk that.
That can be a bit of.
And I will say, Pokemon like Quag and Swampert just really, it just really brings the grass type coverage out the shadows that nobody ever knew you had either, which is crazy.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next team, which has a very funny team abbreviation, by the way, ATM. But we got the Athabasca Miltanks, coached by Abomination, who very bravely drafted Lugia in the first round, which I respect the commitment. Brandon, you want to start off with this one?
So first of all, when I look at this team, I think, for lack of better words, I just think thick. This team is very thick.
Yeah, this and ICD's team are the bulkies of the
league. With the Lugia, the Zamazenta, who on coming in already gets a free +1 defense boost, and even after losing it, he's like, he switches out or something. It's still pretty phenomenally bulky. Clefable with the I believe it's called, Magic Guard, where you only take damage from direct hits.
Guard, yep.
And then he has actually a rapid spinner that I wanted, a very bulky Actually, I think it's the best rapid spinner after Great Tuscan. Iron Treads, Chi-Yu, just a nuke. Goodra, love Goodra. I just feel like this team is like really bulky, and then it's also not just bulky; it's also really strong offensively. I like that he brought back the Chinchino as a Terra captain. I believe its name is Kirianda.
Yep. And Shisanki the Clefable.
Yeah, and he's bringing Clefable back in. Oh, that's sick. That's sick. I really love it.
Yep.
And I think his Uber core.
I'm not caught up on the lore.
Oh, trust me. Just know they are legends.
They are icons. Yes.
Legends.
Specifically Shishanki and Kiriande.
And I think he has a phenomenal Uber core with Lugia, Zamazenta. Like, just about anything the other one is weak to, the other one can just switch into. And then you're not going to kill either one of these, and neither one of these Pokemon are dying in one hit. You're going to have to really fight to break through this team. And unfortunately, I faced this team in Week 8. But, pretty bulky team, pretty strong team, scary team, god darn it. Or as Scorpion would say, bloody hell, scary-ass team. What do you guys think about this team?
I like Lugia Zamazenta. I like Clefable. Terra Clefable is something I've never seen, and honestly, I'm afraid of it. I've never seen it, and in Ubers, it can function. Because the thing about Terraing a fairy type is you're Terraing your fairy type. So you want to have a good enough fairy type to where like you can still threaten dragons, and I mean Clefable can do that. It just becomes like a game of don't let the dragon run over you if you decide to tear your Clefable into something that isn't fairy, which is going to be something that you're going to be doing most of the time, because I imagine you're tearing to check something different on the team that isn't the dragon. But to be fair, you are very thick. It's a very thick team, so like if you struggle against a dragon, Lugia can probably handle it too. You Thunder Wave it, because I think it still has Thunder Wave.
It does.
It's just toxic that it lost, which is really bad.
Yep.
But honestly, as somebody who's fought Lugia in Ubers and got sewed by it, if you manage to play around the fact that Lugia will wall the rest of your team, if the specific check to it dies, it's like you just play this game of don't let your Lugia check die or you lose. It is such a threatening game. I was a Lugia hater, and to an extent, I still am. But after that game, it's just like, if you play smart enough with your Lugia, if you catch your opponent playing badly, it is very, very, very threatening. Especially with Zamazenta, Chi-Yu, which is insane. It still has insane damage output for Uber standards. Like, Goodra can handle a lot of especially defensive or especially offensive stuff. You have good spin with Donphan, which, to be fair, you're not gonna capitalize on too much because you don't have much hazard game of your own. You have Decidueye, which can be taken advantage of, but is also good Shadow Sneak priority. Revavroom is fine. Like, this team is good. I wouldn't call it amazing, but it's good enough to the point where if you can handle the Lugia, if you play it smart enough, I think you can win the league.
Yep, for sure. I do like how this team, a little bit like Icy's as well, it's fat, but it still has great speed control. Obviously, Zamazenta with base 138 speed is going to very easily outspeed almost all the other teams in the league. It's not exactly... Yeah, it's not exactly lacking for power either, because you got your Chi-Yu, you got your like Terra Captains, obviously. Chinchino hits... I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that mon's name correctly, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to say Chinchino. It hits really hard even without Terra, and with Terra in the mix, you got like Terra Normal Tail Slap. You can even do like Terra Ice Triple Axle, which hits like a truck. I really like Chinchino as a secondary Terra Captain on this. The point budget fits perfectly here. There's a lot of people that think Revavroom without Terra is a fraud. As someone who had that mod on his team last season, I think it's not. I really like Revavroom. It's a great grounded poison type. Adds a nice steel type to your team as well. Really like that mon. I do think that, I don't think too highly of Lugia as an Uber, but I do think, first of all, just Al as a trainer, I have absolutely no doubt he will pilot it well. And the team is actually pretty well built to support it too. So I honestly am hoping that Abomination beats the Lugia fraud allegations, because I know there's a good handful of people in our league's server who have their severe doubts about Lugia, which I don't blame them for, to be fair. And obviously I'm not saying that it's not a fraud, I'm just excited to see what it can do, and I think Al has the tools to make it work. I think this team it ticks a lot of boxes for what I think is a solid team. Good priority, amazing bulk. The Ubers synergize well together. My only real criticism is that you can see it on here as well. It doesn't have a spikes user, which is admittedly a little bit of an issue. It does have two great rockers, which is solid. Obviously, Clefable, very good at setting rocks, and if not, Dawnfang could do it just fine as well. But no spikes obviously does mean your hazard game is a little bit weaker. But I mean, on the removal part, you're good. I think Decidueye is actually not a great, but it's a decent defogger, and Dawnfang is a great spinner, like you said. It's good enough. So, and then
you have Tidy Up with Chinchino, if you ever choose to do that.
Yep, correct. That's another little thing, which might make it a little bit easier knowing that it's a Terra Captain as well. So I think Abomination is it's solid. I do like it for sure. I think he definitely has, like I said, he does a great job at trying to get value out of Lugia. I have used Zamazenta Hero myself as well. I think it's great, and it arguably gets better in Ubers too, because of that amazing speed tier. But let's get this ranked. Let's get this team ranked. What are you guys thinking?
I think it's an A. I think it's a solid A. I have no inherent issues with this team. I just don't think it's the strongest thing ever. So solid A.
Do you think it's better than Emerald Miners or not? Because I'm leaning towards it, but I can see arguments against it too. That's tough.
No, I think Emerald Miner is the benchmark. I think it's right below it.
Yeah, that's fair. Brandon?
Honestly, if it was up to me, I would have put it in the as the lowest ranked S tier team.
Okay, so I think we're all leaning
best of A.
As this is the new highest A. Highest A, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm cool with
okay, this is the benchmark now.
Yeah, I do think Al and Emerald Miners team are very, very close together, though. I think they're both really solid teams. Alright, let's move on to the original founder of the Battle Hub Draft League, the ABCDEFG, otherwise known as Atacama Tyranitars, coached by Beardo, who got his beloved Ho-Oh, which I'm very happy with, because I know how much he loves Ho-Oh. So I've been drafting together with Beardo, so I'll take the lead on this one because I kind of see the vision. I really like this team. I think it's really, really cool. Obviously, let's not forget that this man got the round 9 Curon Black, which is hilarious.
Yeah, no, that's insane. That's insane.
Yep, round 9 Curon Black casually coming in there. He has the amazing, even his first 4. If you let's just pretend he drafted Curon Black round 2 for a sec. Ho-Oh, Iron Treads, Terra Ogre Pontiel, and Curon Black is an insane core. An insane core. You've got one of the best rapid spinners in the game with Ho-Oh, so he's not exactly boots locked into that thing, which is great because Ho-Oh is a very versatile Pokemon that can do a lot of different things that it likes to not run boots for. But obviously, if it really needs to, it can. His speed tiers may not look that great, but he does have the embody aspect on Ogerpon, which gives him a free speed boost, so that speed control is a lot better than it might seem on purpose. Or sorry, initially. Even if Iron Treads does not want to run Rapid Spin, he has the Tentacruel as well, which not only Fetz is another spinner, but also a grounded poison type. Because he's already got Iron Treads, I really like how Beardo has had the luxury to add Cobalion on his team as well. That is actually, well, the dog doesn't say, but that's another great stealth rocker so that Iron Treads doesn't always have to use it. You got your bulky Norma type in Farigiraf. I'm not sure how good that bond is going to be, but he did explain why he drafted it in his draft analysis, and I do see the vision. Raging Bolt without Terra, maybe not the best, but it does give him a dragon and a bit of priority, so I definitely don't think that mod is a waste by any stretch. And then, yeah, Gardevoir is an amazing fairy. Like we said, it gets Healing Wish, which is insane for this team. Oh, well, there you go. Frandy's adding the Stealth Rock of Cobalion in the dock right now.
Yeah, I don't know why some of them aren't here. I'm just adding them as I go. My bad.
No worries. But yeah, no, I think every single...
fucking Tentacruel isn't there too. Why isn't Tentacruel there? What the hell?
Yeah, but yeah, no Toxic Spikes and no Rapid Spin either. But yeah, I really see the vision. I may be overrating Beardo's team a little bit because, like I said, I do draft alongside him. We discuss picks, so I know exactly what he's cooking. And I think this team is freaking amazing. Definitely S tier. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. My only real criticism being, again, Ogerpon being the only Terra captain. But at the same time, I think it's 21 points, right? So it's like, if you do draft this thing, you get 5 points for another Terra captain. You might as well just leave it at that point and just get something better. So... I think Beardo's team is sick. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he uses Ho-Oh. And again, I'm just going to say it right now. I think it's S tier, but I'd also like to hear you guys' unbiased perspectives on this.
I don't think I hold this team too high up as a standard as you do. Obviously, you do see the vision more than I do. I just feel like, I mean, yeah, you have very strong speed control with Ogerpon, like regular Ogerpon, but even then, your highest speed tier is 110 with regular Ogerpon, which isn't great. Like, base 110 is fine, but, like, when you're gonna have a lot of 130s, a lot of 120s, like, a lot of...
Well, Ogerpon outspeeds all of them after
those
Terra.
in that general range. What?
It outspeeds all of them after Terra, with Embody Aspect.
Yeah, it outspeeds all of them after Terra, but then now they don't even have to bother for creeping regular Ogerpon now, do they? Or they just Scarf.
That's true, yeah, but I mean, Look, if it forces a Mewtwo to run Scarf, it can't run Specs. That's my thought process, but maybe I'm underestimating that.
But if it does decide to run Specs and just switch out, then something is dying pretty much every time if it runs Psyshock, because your treads can't come in. Like, even if it just decides to be set up, or even just E-Belt for attacks, which Mewtwo can do very easily. Like, it runs Side Strike for the Ho-Oh, it runs Focus Blast for the treads, and it just goes crazy afterwards. And all you can really do about it is hope that they stay in on the Embody Aspect, but Grass is a very easy type to switch into. I think Ogerpon's a very good Terra. It is not better than Terra Wellspring, in my opinion.
Oh no, it's not. It's cheaper as well. Like, this thing is cheaper than Terra Wellspring.
Okay, I know speed is an insane stat to raise, but I just think on a pure Grass type, I don't think it's as good as doing its job as I think people think. And then just not having that speed, it's a little you have good offense, you have really good defense. I like Gardevoir a lot on this team. Gardevoir is also just a really underrated part of this team. Just having any good offensive fairy in UBERS is great. Having Stab Moonblast, having Trace, which I think is like underrated. Having Trace, very, very good. Like, I've used Gardevoir on Wi-Fi, it's very good. It's just...
Wow, you've used Gardevoir, I would have never guessed.
What?
You've used Gardevoir, I would have never guessed.
You don't... No, you don't have to do that to me, it's okay.
Well, you like this mod, there's no problem with that.
But yeah, I mean, I think the team's good, I just don't think it's like... I just think not having that speed issue makes its offense a lot less prevalent than I think it otherwise would be if you had, like, even just one base 130 that was pretty threatening. Like, I just think that's, like, the one piece this team is missing.
That's fair. Brandon, your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of see, like, both points of view. Because, like, I do feel like him not having the 110 speed is pretty limiting offensively. But at the same time, I feel like he does somewhat make up for it, considering that Ho-Oh, Iron Treads, Raging Bolt, Tentacruel, Cobalion, Farigiraf, and maybe Gardevoir. Maybe I'm sleeping on Gardevoir, but I look at the team and I feel like the team is bulky enough to kind of make up for that lack of speed, and then he can't always just Terra and then fix
He
that.
doesn't have a dark type either, and you can't. And unlike those other teams that don't have a dark type or don't have a good dark type, you can't even like Terra to save your ass out of it.
Okay.
Like the one thing I don't like about Ogerpon being your only Terra captain is that grass is the only Terra you can run.
That is a valid
You have
point.
absolutely-
That is a valid
I
point.
was-
I
you
did
have
not consider that.
I was going to bring
You
that
have
up
zero
too.
versatility in terms of what types you can switch into. So even in matchups where like a lot of our criticisms come in, just like let's say like you don't know what you're gonna Terra into, or you're gonna be forced into Terraing it. Like you don't even have that Band-Aid option, and your only Dark Resist is Cobalion. Your only Ghost immunity is Farigiraf, which a lot of Ghosts get Dark Pulse as well. And your Psychic Resist, your Psychic Resists are miles better because you have Iron Tread, you have Gardevoir, you have Farigiraf, which is better. But those Ghost and Dark weaknesses are gonna be very, very bad for you.
Yeah, that's very fair. That's honestly a great point. I did not really consider that, but it's definitely something that holds it back. But it's also like that's really like just a metagaming issue more than anything else. And I do actually think that I'm gonna be honest, even though he doesn't have the resistances, I do think that Ho-Oh, with its insane bulk and regenerator, and again the fact that it can easily run or doesn't really have to run boots in this team, I think can actually be a pretty good Band-Aid check. To
Oh yeah, no,
a lot of
Ho-Oh.
things. So like, I
Look,
personally
at the
don't
end of the
think
day,
it's
your
that great of an
Uber,
issue.
at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10, your Uber's gonna be able to carry you out of whatever situation you're in anyways. It's just like pigeonholing your Ho-Oh into like a strictly, oh, this is the thing that I switch in my psychic, like what I switch into the psychic types for,
Yep.
is not a very good thing you want to do with Ho-Oh. You usually want your Ho-Oh to just be able to do whatever the hell you want it to do in that matchup. That does not mean like pigeonhole it into one specific role. I don't like doing that, especially to your Uber, because if you make your Uber prep predictable, it makes the rest of your team very it makes it very, you're able to navigate it a lot easier in prep.
That's fair. Right, let's get this team ranked. What are we thinking? We're gonna have another A-tier
A-tier.
benchmark, or are we thinking good enough
It's
to
another
be S?
A tier.
I think it's
No,
an
I
8
don't think it's good enough. Yes, it's A tier.
Okay, that's fair. Well, I personally think it's low S, lowest of S, but you guys outvoted me on that. So, is it better than Abomination or lower?
I would
No,
personally,
it's lower. It's lower than Minor. It's
I would
lower
put
than
it in-
Emerald.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same. I was gonna say that, Chelsea. I would put
Better
it
than-
below Emeralds.
Better than Chris then?
Need to remember that team. Give me a bit.
The
Palkia,
team with the
Origin,
dog
Spectator.
Dizzy.
Oh, I would personally put it below, but you can put it above.
I think it's
Uh,
personally.
I feel like they're interchangeable.
Yeah, that's
like-
fair.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it above,
Okay.
but for the sake of
Yeah, put it above.
They could
Put it above because nobody feels that strong about Chris's team as much as Scorp does.
yeah.
Or
Well, I think Chris's team is really good, and I think these teams are pretty close together. But I think I may be overrating this team again because I see the vision. But yeah, that's why I have you guys. All right, on to the Machesney Park Slowpokes, Ghost by Operator 54. My God, this guy got Magearna and Palkia. What the hell? That's
yeah, no, that's kind of crazy.
that is an insane.
With Zoroark too.
Yeah, that's an insane core right off the bat.
Zoroark is so much more dangerous in this format because you just disguise yourself as an Uber, and no matter what, if you're the opponent and you cannot tell which one of them it is, which remember to run telepathy Palkia if you are ever to disguise yourself as Palkia. Run telepathy, do not run pressure.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's a good tip.
But-
Pressure in week 5 though.
But just being able to disguise yourself as two insanely threatening threats is like as threatening as Magearna and Palkia is crazy.
Yep, no, for sure. Especially because Zoroark can like bait in and destroy the special wall. Because the thing with Hisui and Zoroark, right? People often forget that its attack is very close to its special attack, and it does get Poltergeist. You can very feasibly just run a Swords Dance set on Zoroark, or just a physical set with like Poltergeist. Bait in any special wall that walls Magearna or that walls Palkia, get them chipped or even remove them from the game, and then your Uber goes berserk. Like that's definitely something I could see.
No, it's insane.
That's something I could see him doing. I really like the Terra
And then-
captains. I'm not sure how much Mandibuzz benefits from Terra because its natural typing is already really good, but it does mean that it's an even better plaster check to a lot of opposing threats. Hisuian Arcanine as a Terra Captain is cracked, like that mon is already pretty good, but when you can Terrastallize it either defensively to get out of that horrible defensive typing, or just Terra Rock, Terra Fire, blow something the fuck up, go for Terra Normal E-Speed.
Terra Normal E-Speed.
Yep, that's another really big... That could be the one that I could see happening the most. We also have Rillaboom, which I think is an insanely good addition to this team. It gives you, like, obviously it gives Magearna protection from ground moves, so they're forced to run either high horsepower or something else. You can run a Grassy Seed on Magearna and like get a stored power set going, which is insanely strong. You give passive recovery to all your mons. Yep, that's something that I really liked doing when Magearna was legal. You got your Sneasler as well, which is not only amazing speed control normally, but with a burden that's even better. And yeah, just in general, like having that priority ability to knock off items and stuff is great. It's kind of weird because I was initially thinking that Adam was going to build. I was actually thinking that Adam was going to build like another hyper offense team, but then he got like Terra Mandibuzz. I was like, I mean, it's a good mon. I just didn't think it fit the team that well. But still, though, I think this team is cracked. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on it. I think it's
this is just another one of those teams that synergizes really well. Magearna synergizes really well with Palkia because Palkia only weak to Fairy. Magearna takes advantage of Fairy all day long. Rillaboom gives Magearna not just the ground, like help with ground types, but also just recovery, like passive recovery. So you can have the leftovers recovery that you really want with Magearna without actually running leftovers, or just double down on like leftovers protect sets, which are really good. Gives you a really good pivot and invites steel types in, which Palkia loves to take advantage of. Sneasler loves to take advantage of. Hisuian Arcanine really likes to take advantage of. Hisuian Zoroark, I already talked about how amazing that is on this team. And then there's just a Mamoswine there that's just ready to be like, okay, you're weak to ground ice, which is literally every team ever. Alright, here we go.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can wall break for the other thing to clean up on this team. And even, I like the addition of Trevenant on this team because it's another mon that can like spin block and add some more priority to the team. Like that thing is not dead weight. And it just seems a little irrelevant considering there's already a Rillaboom and Hisuian Zoroark here, so I would have preferred a type that you don't already have, like a low-tier Psychic, but I don't know, you don't really need anything. You don't need a Psychic or a Bug type, and those are the only two types you're missing, so it's just like, it's fine, it's not even like bad, it's just, it helps with your ground weakness too, if you really need to double down. He does have a pretty tough schedule though, like it's completely unrelated to the team, but facing Biridu and then Raymond after that's tough. That's tough.
It's a very good team though. I think it's a good enough team to absolutely carry through that. Like just you have very strong speed control with a ton of priority. You have you have E-Speed that can be Terra E-Speed with Arcanine, you have Grassy Glide Rillaboom, you have Ice Shard Mamoswine. Really, really strong priority. Some of the strongest priority.
Yep. Brandon, your thoughts?
All of the drafts that we've seen.
I think this team is absolutely cracked offensively and defensively. And something I just find very scary. You can try to muscle through this team, but something I have and maybe I'm just biased to think this way because I'm using this Pokemon in the SDA. You have to deal with the looming threat of Sneasler just coming in. Like, you have to muscle through Rillaboom, Magearna, Mandibuzz, play the mind games with Zoroark, and then you just have all these other mons like the Palkia, the Sneasler, the Arcanine. Yeah, those are just looming threats, and I don't want to say too much because I do have to play this team later on in the season, but...
Same, actually. We played back-to-back. You in week 5, I'm in week 7, never mind, but still, pretty close.
But this is definitely not one of the games I'm looking forward to. I can definitely tell y'all that much. And
get your revenge for getting Magearna sniped.
Heck yeah. And even something I can say about this team that I can't really say about the other teams. Well, I guess Scorpion and Icy Dude, I guess I can say this about their teams as well. But even his low tier mons, like even those mons are like freaking amazing. And yeah, I just think this is a really great team.
Yep. Let's get this one ranked.
I would personally put it in A.
S tier.
I think it's S. Yeah. Not sure when in S. I think it's above or below Icy Dude. Those teams are kind of similar in terms of strength, I think. Possibly even above Raymond, but I don't know what you guys think of that.
I think it's better. I personally think it's better, but that's just me.
Better than Raymond's as well?
I think that's just
So like second best in the team. Second best
buff
team in the league.
Raymond.
Is what you're saying.
No, I don't think it's better than Raymond, but
Yeah.
it's number 3.
I think
It's number 3 right now.
I think it's number 3 as well. I agree with that. I think it's very close to Icy Dude's strength as well. Right, next up we have another newcomer to the BHDL. We have the Fear Rippers, coached by DRVR, and this is the team with Dragapult and Iron Valiant, and first for BHDL. And yeah, immediate really strong Dragon Fairy team.
And hopefully last.
Yeah, oh for sure. But yeah, Brandon, you want to start off with this one?
First of all, can someone explain to me how we let this happen?
Well,
Dragapult and Iron Valiant.
I was considering drafting Iron Valiant
Oh.
round 2, but I ended up settling for Great Tusk instead. So
And then it's crazy because Dragapult, because for those of you who don't know, Dragapult's actually a bronze tier Uber because of how well it just matches into a lot of the other Ubers.
Yep.
You know, offensively pretty well.
yep,
Um,
2 Ubers on this team.
I mean, like I keep saying, most common types, Dragon and Psychic. What beats Dragon and Psychic? Dragon and Ghost.
There you go.
And then the
142
fastest thing,
base speed. It's like it's
Yeah.
the fastest. It's the fastest good thing on the board. Like it's faster than Saucy and Zamazenta. It hasn't, and it's just. I mean, it does what Dragapult does, but just it does it against targets that are higher priority.
Yeah, it does get outspeed when the Oxys forms, but it's like you just fucking sucker punch them anyway. You know, who cares?
yeah, because 142 speed with, I want to say 120 attack, 100 special attack. Yeah, this thing is just scary. And then you have Iron Valiant, which is, in my opinion, arguably scarier, just because I feel like fighting in Fairy is also just very, like, just good into a lot of teams. And then, honestly, his first 3, Solgaleo, Dragapult, Iron Valiant, that's just, like, such a strong, like, they just look so strong together, like, such a strong core already.
Yeah, literally textbook
Yeah.
Dragon Fairy Steel. You know, literally textbook Dragon Fairy Steel.
Now, and then I feel like he has a very, well, the people at the BHDL might say I'm biased to say this, but I do think he also has a very solid dark type for his
of
ghost
course.
weakness with those first 2 with Bisharp.
Well, his one called
'Cause
Terra,
I-
so
Yeah, but hey, you can still make it work. Actually, Valiant's also a really solid, answer for like darks. Thankfully, he has a dark type for those ghosts because obviously Ditto wasn't going to. I'm actually very interested to see what he does with the Terra Ditto because I do know Terra Ditto basically offers him a 3rd Uber if he can position it properly or if someone wants to just set up in his face. You know, Ditto just forces those mind games, but I've never actually seen someone do good with Terra Ditto, so I will be very interested to see how he does with Terra Ditto, considering with the first 3 of Lone, he's just going to be able to just do so much. And then Terra Thunder as well, that was something I, kind of wanted, but we don't talk about that. It's pretty amazing, Mon. I have very low opinion of Alomomola. There we go. Alomomola. Yeah, I don't really think too highly of the fish. Actually, I hate the fish with a passion. It's just the fact this thing does one thing. Literally one thing. I'll admit, it does it well, but I just hate the fish because it's just a thing with like passive mons. I feel like if passive had a poster child, it would be Alomomola, but I have to admit it's very good. It's very good at passing wishes. I just hate how one-dimensional this thing is. I feel like he has
I
pretty
don't
good-
think it's good at passing wishes at all, but that's just because I think the only thing that Mon wants to be clicking is the flip turn button so that you don't
Yeah.
get taken advantage
literally
of.
just flips turns over and over again.
It's so one-dimensional.
Yeah,
But I do think
I have been guilty of losing to a Alomomola in Ubers, in Wi-Fi, literally the last Uber League I played. But that's just, I was hard tilting that game because they brought Whirlwind Iron Moth, and that was just a really good bring. I couldn't get my shit set up.
Writing that down, thank you very much.
Well, I recently just 6-0'd somebody who had a Alomomola. I hate that fish with a freaking passion. I feel like he has. If this was like a standard draft, I would feel like he has good hazard control options with Talonflame and Cryogonal. I don't know how good they are in Ubers, so I'm just saying.
Talonflame has its merits by being a fast Will-O-Wisper. Having base 126 in Ubers is just really like being higher than base 100 and having good control of anything is going to be good in Ubers, just because the benchmark with most of the Ubers is going to be in that like 90 to 100 range. So just being faster than that and having Will-O-Wisp, having Defog, having... It's really just those. U-Turn as well. It's not bad, and then Cryogonal being a specially defensive ice type is going to have some level of merit.
Yeah.
I think Klefki is honestly like the biggest threat on this team, just because you have this top three. This top three absolutely demonic. Three steel types. All three of them do entirely different things. Solgaleo mostly wants to be like the counter to other Ubers. Klefki wants to be facilitating your hyper offensive threats in Dragapult, Iron Valiant, the Terra Thunderous nobody has talked about so far. Which is also just kind of there.
Don't worry. I'll get to that.
And then Iron Valiant is like, or not Iron Valiant. I mean, it's really just those four or those three, because Solgaleo doesn't want to be too offensive most of the time. It can run weakness policy. It just doesn't get Dragon Dance. I don't think it gets agility. So it's very hard to do offensive sets with that mon, other than like weakness policy, which is quite inconsistent.
Or choice band.
But it's gonna be very... Yeah, choice band, you can also do choice band. It's just triple steel is a little weird, but they all fill different purposes, which I like. And with that top two, you do really want strong checks too. Or with Dragapult Iron Valiant, you want strong switch-ins to Fairy, so I get it.
Yeah. Me personally, I think this team is like this team has a pretty telegraphed playstyle, right? But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because like you have your textbook Dragon Fairy Steel Core. Solgaleo I think is an amazing first round pick, and then obviously Dragapult Iron Valiant kind of also just fills it's the type core, and they work really well together. They're very scary. Add on to that with Thunderous Tea. Again, the whole thing with Thunderous Tea is that it adds another whole extra dimension to it, because it actually opens up Flying Staff, so you can actually use Terra Blast Flying. That set is so scary anytime you put that thing in position. We talked about it earlier with quite a few teams being weak to flying. Well, if this thing gets an opportunity to fire off a Choice Specs Terra Blast Flying, something drops, because that thing has base 145 special attack. You are not living that if you don't resist it. So I really like those, and like I don't even want, like, outside of the Ditto, right? Just Solgaleo, Dragapult, Valiant, Thunderous. I do not want to imagine these behemoths behind screens, and that sounds terrifying. What I am not a massive fan, however, is I just feel like the rest of this team is kind of built around just supporting these as best as they can. But because outside of maybe a Swords Dance Bishop, which is very matchup fishy in this league, because it can't Terra, or at least on this team it can't Terra, I feel like... And like, obviously Dragapult, Valiant, Terra Thunder T, and Solgaleo is insanely difficult to deal with. But if you can, like, imagine these big threats go down early. Like, the rest of your mods are honestly very bad. Like, Talonflame, for those who don't know, has a lower attack stat than a Moongus. So this thing has a sad tendency of being more passive than you expect it to be. Cryogonal is strictly support, Gligar is strictly support, Alomomola has weaker attack stats than a lot of first stage Pokemon, so that thing's not going to be doing anything.
Strictly support, like the strictest support of all time.
So I don't think that's necessarily like a massive weakness, but I think it makes this team difficult to pilot, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what DRVR does with it. But
I just want to see. I think honestly, the biggest merit of Alomomola on this team is having Healing Wish.
Yeah, no, Healing Wish.
Solgaleo.
Healing Wish is absolutely amazing.
Healing Wish is so good.
Healing Wish to Solgaleo, Healing Wish to a DD pole, like that's amazing. And I think again, with how much support this team has, I am 100% confident that you absolutely can make these threats put in work. But I honestly would have liked to see a bit more like variety in the offense on this team, because like.
I disagree, because you have arguably the two most versatile offensive Pokemon in standard draft.
Well, put it this way.
You have Dragapult.
Put it this way. I wish
you have Iron Valiant.
I would not be comfortable piloting it. I'm not saying it's a weakness. I would not be comfortable piloting it myself. That's not...
that's fair.
That's
just, I think... You have variety in offense, it's just your variety is in your, like, basically 3 hyper-offensive Pokemon, and arguably Solgaleo, I just think of it more as defensive.
Yeah.
So
what I'm trying to say is I think this team is solid, but just difficult to pilot, so I'm curious to see how it pans out.
I think it's a high A tier.
Yeah, let's get to ranking this one. So I'm also thinking high. I don't think it's as good as Abomination or even Emerald Miner, but I can see why someone would say it's better than Beardoo's.
Yes, I think it's like right under minor.
All right, Brandon, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's A tier, and I also think it's like right below the L minors.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because this team has potential. It
Yep.
definitely has potential.
All right, let's move on to we're on the final 3 now, so this video is already long enough already, so let's get to this home stretch. We have the sleepy Laxingtons, coached by Lazy Boy, who... Well, first of all, I just like how the team looks. Even no comments about how good it is, I just like how this sort of team looks together. Like, I like a lot of the mons in this team. And he's got the Uber core of Necrozma Dawn Wings with Zamazenta Crowned, so very interesting team. Frandy, you want to start off with this one?
Demon Uber Core. Just anything that's like Lunala and or Necrozma plus fighting type, just love it.
Yep. This is actually an Uber
Now,
core that I was considering myself if I hadn't gotten Lunala. Dawn Wings plus Zama Crowned. But yeah, go on.
Dawnwings is a weird Pokemon because base 77 on an Uber is pretty bad, and you don't have Shadow Shield. Prism Armor does not help it as much as you would think, because its 2 weaknesses are 4 times weaknesses. So unlike like regular Necrozma or on the banned Duskmane, which should always be banned, you're only really helping yourself with 4 times weaknesses, which means you're taking like it's 75% of 4 times damage, which is like you're still taking 3 times the damage. That's not
Yeah.
you're not really helping yourself too much, but you are ridiculously bulky, so you're still probably living like non-stab Shadow Balls, which is fine. And then offensively, you still have Moongeist Beam plus Psychic. And in this league in particular, with the lack of significantly strong dark types, it has a lot of merit. And then, even against those very strong dark types, you have the one of the best checks to them in Zamazenta Crowned. And even if that isn't enough, you have a Primarina, which is insanely strong in Ubers.
Yeah, I was considering this thing myself as well. Like, for round 4, I remember you commenting on my Empoleon. I was actually considering between Empoleon and Primarina, but because Primarina got sniped, I ended up like, well, I'll just get Empoleon instead then. But yeah, I really like Primarina. I think it's an amazing one in Ubers.
Yeah. Clotsire could be taken advantage of. It's a very iffy Pokemon, especially in Ubers where there's going to be a lot of Psychic types looking to counter you. But to those Psychic types, you have a Necrozma. You have a Necrozma Dawn Wings, which is going to be switching in on them very easily, unless like you get hard red and they go for Shadow Ball. But even then, you're probably living a non-stab one, and then you just click the Moongeist Beam against the slower Psychic types. You can always go Scarf if you really want to get that speed control. Or actually, no, it lost. It doesn't get agility, does it? I don't think it can boost its speed anymore. That is pretty bad, actually. But it's fine overall, honestly.
I feel like this thing is going to be scarfed a lot, personally. Like Dawn Wings.
Yeah. Weavile, just take everything good that I said about Xianpao and like crank it down to like 80. Weavile's still amazing because I said so much good shit about Xianpao. It's just Xianpao, but a little worse. And being a little worse than Xianpao, not a bad thing at all. It's one of the best non-Ubers. I'm very happy seeing that thing taken round 3. It's like one of the best value non-Ubers you can get. Terra Entei also gives you really good priority with Terra Normal E-Speed on top of Ice Shard from Weavile. Regieleki is good speed control because at least you get 200 base speed Thunder Wave, which I think is that thing's best merit, especially in Ubers. I don't think you're ever going to be using it offensively. You shouldn't. Terra Hydrapple is just Terra Regenerator, which good any day of the week. And the Braviary is good low tier. Like, there are no bad Pokemon on this team. You get value out of everything on this team, which I really, really like.
Yeah, I completely agree. Brandon?
I think very highly of this team. I think is like y'all have mentioned, the Necrozma Dawn with the Zamazenta Crown core is just filthy, disgusting. And good luck to anybody has to play him, because I know I don't. And then I just think this team is like just really strong offensively, and then he has pretty good walls defensively as well. And the only thing, and this could just be me personally, the only thing I don't like is that the spinner is Regieleki. I have a low opinion of Regieleki when he can't tear it. That's just a minor nitpick. But outside of that, I think this team is, well, freaking amazing. And then he has Clodsire,
I mean-
which has a reputation of always making it to the finals somehow. So hey, lazy, you heard me.
Yeah, Clodsire, ironically enough, has done historically extremely well in BHDL history. It's made it to finals multiple times, and even won multiple seasons. But yeah, I really agree with what Frandy said. I really like that there's no Pokemon in this team up that I think poorly. I think even Braviary has great merit on this team. I think Regieleki, even though I do severely I do think it's severely limited, and I wouldn't consider drafting it myself, but it has a place on this team, which is good enough. I like the Terra captains.
I personally hate it, but it has its place on this team.
On this team for sure, yeah. I like, again, personally, I am more comfortable with the higher tier Terra captain, but Entei and Hydrapple fits in the budget perfectly, and I do think not only are these commands very good together, but they also both greatly benefit from Terra. Like you said, Terra normal E-speed, really good, and Entei doesn't have the best coverage move pool in the world, so Terra Blast does add on to that. Like we said, Dawn Wings plus Zamazenta Crown, insane Uber Core. I think it's really, really nasty. And the main fundamental problem with Dawn Wings is, like you said, 77 base speed with those 4x weaknesses, and also the fact that Dawn Wings does not get Moonblast, unlike Lunala, is definitely a big problem. It's just not as good as answering Dark types as Lunala is itself. But you also do have the Zamazenta Crown for that.
Focus Blast.
I don't think it does. No, I can very quickly double check that, but I don't think it does. No, it does not. No Focus Blast. So you're gonna have to rely on Zamazenta Crown a little bit to handle those Dark types, but like that's fine. Honestly, Zamazenta Crown. I think Zamazenta Crown is Zamazenta Crown is an amazing mon, and even just the first 4, like Weavile and Primarina as well. I really like these mons. So, and like, to be honest, I want to say this because I want to give credit where credit's due. I know historically Lazy Boys teams have not been ranked that high in past power rankings, so I just want to say, Lazy, I think you really upped your game for this one, and I think this is a really solid team.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Alright, let's get to ranking this. What are you thinking?
Solid A could be S tier. Could be S tier.
I would put this as the lowest team in S tier, personally.
Yeah, just because I myself would also be, like, more than comfortable piloting it, I'm also leaning towards lowest S. I think Icy's team is better, and I think every other S team is better, but I'm saying S, personally.
Yeah, honestly, I'm fine with S. I'm completely fine with S.
Yep. Right, second to last team, we have the Brooklyn Baxcaliburs, coached by Notorious HIM, and we got the Zacian hero living until 15th pick in round 1, which is absolutely hilarious. There were actually some people, that myself included, that somehow thought this one was going to get undrafted, but here we are. At least someone picked it up finally, and we do also see the mascot Baxcalibur. So I mean, I'll start off in this one. First of all, shout out to the Delphox, one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Not a Terra Captain this time, but that's whatever. So first of all, I think Zacian Hero is undoubtedly one of the best Ubers in this metagame. I mean, that's pretty obvious. You got your insane speed tier, and picking up a really good fairy that early is really smart. I like HIM that he actually went for this pick. Baxcalibur obviously does have its limitations, but you do have a really strong, really powerful Ice Shard, which is super anti-meta, so I think as far as Dragons go, Baxcalibur is still quite good. I like the defensive core on this team. Skarmory, Landorus, T, not that bad. We got the Glamora, so we got plenty of hazards options on this game, or on this team, sorry. It doesn't say that Skarmory gets spikes, but it does. So we got 2 rockers on this team, 3 rockers actually, and we got 2 spikers as well.
Wait, oh shit, what the fuck? Why is Skarmory not here? What the hell?
Yeah, there's a lot of things in that, but no worries.
My bad.
I like the choices for Terra Captains as well, honestly. Landorus T plus Jolteon is 26 points exactly, fits in perfectly. Lando T, I think, is definitely going to be a bit more of an offensive role on this team, not as much support. But that's fine, because the thing is, this team already has 2 really solid rockers, so you can really start making use of Landorus offensively on this team, and like get those Terra Blast flyings going, or even just like Scarf Terra Ground Earthquake. I think there's a good potential there. His speed tiers are solid. I mean, I don't really like the fact that there's a massive gap between Jolteon and Delphox. I think a base 110 or 112 on this team would have been cool. But still, the team is fast. Zacian Hero, obviously, with that base 138 speed is amazing. Jolteon, not a great Pokemon normally, but as a Terra Captain, getting access to that coverage, lots and lots better. Did an amazing job on Abomination's team last season as well. I do understand... Actually, no, I don't understand why Venusaur is on this team, because Glamora is already the grounded poison type, so I don't love that. And because of the fact that this team has a lot of hazards, which is undoubtedly a strength. I don't like the fact that Sableye is the only spin blocker. That's because again, there's no Giratina I'm missing on this team. There's no other ghost type that can block rapid spin. So I would have liked to see a bit more of a better ghost type that can actually block. Because like his hazard game is fantastic. He's got like, removal. He's got multiple rockers, spikers, toxic spikers. So the fact that Sableye is your only way of blocking rapid spin is not great. And yeah, Furret also is kind of like whatever. I do think highly. Again, Baxcalibur plus Slowking, always an amazing core. He has a solid balance of offense and defense. And then the final thing I wanted to note about this team is that there's a quite big lack of priority. Like, I'm pretty sure Ice Shard Baxcalibur is the only really strong form of priority.
Ice Shard Baxcalibur, yeah, and like Quick Attack Zacian.
Yeah, so I'm not. Again, the speed tiers are great, but there's a bit of lack of priority on the team as well. So I do have my fair criticisms of this team. But yeah, again, the fact that I can't put my finger on the fact that this man got Zacian Hero at 15th. That's hilarious. But yeah, I'll let you guys at it.
I mean, I like Baxcalibur's Slowking, very strong. I like Skarmory a lot, very good. I like Glimmora on any hyper-offensive Uber team that just fits onto anything. Terra Lando T at round 7 is fucking insane. Jolteon is... The fact that you can afford Terra Lando T and Terra Jolteon is insane, too.
Yep. Like I said, it fits perfectly. It's 17 plus 9.
Those are two, like, together, that's probably the best Terra combo.
Yeah.
Like, that I've seen so far.
I agree.
And I think it's the best Terra combo in the league. Sableye as your dark type is gonna be a struggle because your only ghost resist is Furret. Your only dark resist is Zacian, and look, don't get me wrong, Zacian is a very good Pokemon, offensively. It has good bulk as well.
Has amazing bulk actually,
but it's also not.
Pokemon.
But it's not good enough bulk to carry you against like the scariest dark types on the board, like Darkrai or just like Tianpao. Like you're gonna struggle into those a little bit, and
at least it does.
You don't really have a good way to navigate those, and then against ghost types, you are just fucked. If you want to bring Furret, if you think Furret's a good check, then go ahead and bring Furret. It's just like Furret is also a detriment to your team in a lot of ways. And so you're going to be bringing Terra Dark Lando T a lot, which, like, now you're pigeonholing your Lando T into a role, and then that's not good. So, yeah, it's just a whole thing. But otherwise, it's a great team. Otherwise, it's a great team.
Yeah, I like it. Brandon?
Well, I play this team next week, so I'm not going to say too much. But I will say this much. I think the team is great. I just question the hazard removal. That's all.
The lack of the... Oh, wait, no, just Glimmora.
Because only having Glimmora as a spinner to me, and I think it's been proven time and time again in the BHDL in particular, is just not usually the most consistent thing to have, especially considering...
No, you never want to put Glimmora into that role, because the role Glimmora is filling is the one that's vomiting hazards, not the one removing them.
Yeah, it's quite easy to remove. Like, it's generally easier to spin block Glimmora with a steel type than it is to spin block anything else with a ghost type, so... Yeah.
Because even though it gets earth power, a lot of these steel types are bulky enough that they can just tank it and then just muscle through Glimmora, because it's also weak to steel, which...
And very frail.
Yeah, so outside of the questionable hazard removal, because let's be honest, Furret probably is never going to come to it. I mean, he drafted it, so I believe it'll come to a game, but multiple games, several games, I'm not feeling that it's going to happen. Please don't 6-0 me with Furret next week, okay? But yeah, that's those are my only qualms about the team, just the hazard removal. But I think everything else with the team is amazing.
Yeah, I do like it. We're what we thinking on the tier list.
I think it's a A team.
It's a low A.
Yeah, I would put it below Chris's team.
Yeah, that's fair. I can agree with that. Alright, easy one. And then last but not least, we have...
Oh boy!
We have the Piedmont Triad Kickers, coached by the man himself, Brandon, on this call with us right now. So yeah, again, me and Frandy are going to take the lead on this one. If Brandon has any additional comments, he could fill in. But I know Frandy's dying to talk about this team, so go ahead, Queen.
And you guys...
Alright, so... On one hand... Who let you get Tinglu round 7? Why did you guys do that? That is, like, I've been talking about how important having a good dark type is this entire time. I've been talking about, like, oh my god, this team doesn't have a good dark resist. Oh my god, this team doesn't have a good ghost resist. You have the best resist to both of those types in the game. You have something that can wall most special things in the game and facilitates offense so easily, and they let you get this at round 7. On the other hand, where did the Terra Infernape go? I liked that. Why are we doing Terra Cinderace? That's not a good Terra, not in my opinion. I think there's a Terra Ogerpon right there. I understand it's your favorite Pokemon. You can draft Cinderace. I love Cinderace. On this team too, great Pokemon. Why is Ogerpon not the Terra? I like Pheasantipity. This team has really, really good pivoting. I love this team's pivoting. It has some of the best pivots in the game. It has Cinderace, it has Rotom Wash, it has Pheasantipity. Like, those are really, really good pivots. It has Ogerpon Cornerstone, which is also an incredible pivot. Deoxys Dialga, like, even for just like a on-the-spot sort of core, it's very good. Dialga's really good. It's really versatile. Deoxys is just kind of that nuke button that is going to outspeed most, if not everything. And you have very good Sucker Punch resists. You have very good, I wouldn't say anti-priority, but good switches into priority. Like, Dialga covers the E-Speed. Tinglu covers the Sucker Punch. And then you have really a pretty good spinner for Paldea, which is Hitmontop. And Terra Drifblim can work. It can do things. And Spidops is really good value for the price that it's at. It's just, it is a wild set of opinions. Like, again, getting round 7 Tinglu is the best possible thing that could have happened. I don't understand how that happened.
Yeah. No, I personally really like this team. I find it quite funny as well, because there's a lot of me in this team in a subtle way, because, like, first of all, I know Brandon got sniped to hell and back this season, so I mean, first of all, the fact that he managed to draft a team this good, I think, is very, very impressive.
Which is also part of the thing with me, which is like, why are we complaining?
Yeah. So I think his team is solid. Obviously, Deoxys, Normal, and Dialga, I think, is actually a core that I recommended to him when he was asking me about his 2 Ubers, and I think it's an amazing start to the roster. Obviously, you got your 2 Silvers in immediately. Great speed control, 2 amazing rockers. The fact that Tinglu is a 3rd one, you arguably don't even need it, but I mean, you got it anyway, so the versatility's there. Ogerpon Cornerstone, Rotom Wash, Pheasantipity, Tinglu, and Terra Blifblim are all past Leaf agents. I've had all of these mons in different seasons, and I liked all of them, genuinely. Tinglu was probably the biggest partner in crime with Palafin on my team last season. Great mon. It's
better in Ubers.
Yeah,
it's much better in Ubers.
No, it is better, because I paid 14 points for it, and Brandon had to pay 16 points, but I mean, that's justified. Rotom Wash, Pheasantipity, I talked about it when he got them together. These are just reliable mons, which you can just slap any special defense or defense EVs on and just check something. Like, it is this Pheasantipity fine check to something like Palkia Origin or most other special attackers that, like, don't have Psyshock or whatnot. Like Franny said, great pivots, Cinderace U-turn, Ogerpon U-turn, Volt Switch U-turn. There's a lot of that on this team. Good hazard control as well. You got your default Drifblim, you got Rapid Spin, Hitmontop, you got Court Change Cinderace. Like, I know for some reason it's always a thing with Brandon that I feel like is sometimes a weakness of his team building, is he over fixates on hazard control. Like, he drafts like 4 hazard removers, which I'm like, brother, why? But on this team, that's not a big issue. Like, these mons had...
Hey, it's only 2 this time. He toned it down and actually got real offense, although I think the Terras could have been a little better.
Well, it's like, I can understand why he does the Terra Cinderace, because he wants to put in work with it. But I do also agree, I personally would have made Ogerpon Cornerstone a Terra captain. But still, I'm excited to see the Terra Cinderace in action. And Frandy, it's Brandon. Let him cook, alright? Let him cook.
No, I mean, hey, I'll let him.
Yeah, this is gonna work. My only tiny issue about this team is I don't like the fact that this team is absolutely amazing hazards-wise, but Drifblim is your spin blocker. That could have been slightly better, but I mean, at the same time, like, Drifblim is a good spin blocker. It's just I don't like having to force it to come to many games, put it that way. But it's still a great, like, for its point price, it's a good mon, and I like the fact that it still fits in the budget with Terra Cinderace. So I really like this team. I don't know if I'd call it S, maybe, but I think it's solid, honestly. I think, again, especially considering how many times you got sniped this season, I like this team a lot. But if Brandon, if you want to have like add something to your own team, please go ahead and do so.
I did prefer the Terra Infernape version of this team, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, see the thing about so for those of y'all, well, if you guys, I would really like if y'all checked out my draft analysis, but
yes, will be a link in the description down below. Go check it out.
But something that I did mention in my draft analysis, when I drafted Infernape, I was actually drafting it on the behalf of someone else who wanted it, because the whole point of me getting something besides Cinderace this season was so me to switch mascots. But of course, his mascot is very valuable, so I'm not even upset it got sniped. Like, it's just a very valuable Pokemon. Like, I can't even be upset about it. So he actually reached out to me wanting to switch the Infernape for the Cinderace. So basically, I'm saying also to say, Infernape was never actually in my plans, which is why I just got rid of it. I do agree that maybe I could change Cinderace's Terra, give it to something else. The main reason I have it on Cinderace in particular, though, is because one thing I don't like about the Terra Ogerpon, I just don't like my Terra being telegraphed. And then also, I wanted to have 2 Terra Captains, which was kind of hard to do with Ogerpon, because I did consider it. But then when I looked at the things that could be 5-point Terra Captains, or it might be 4 points. I can't remember if it's 21
points. Oh, it's a 20-point Terra? Ooh.
Oh, 20. Oh, 20. It's somewhere up there. And I was like, this is kind of tough. So I was just like, you know what, Cinderace, this is what I'm used to. I know we're not taking player skill into this, but yeah, like Scorpion said, you guys just trust me.
It's only 18 for Terra, by the way.
All right, I mean, hey, I'll trust it. I just think like Terra Cinderace, while not being nearly as telegraphed, is also way harder to get any value out of because of how weird Libero is. I just feel like you're better using the versatility of Libero to your advantage rather than making it so you're either running Blaze or you're doing weird Terra things with Libero. But because it's so rare, you could also take advantage of that because there will eventually be a knowledge check. And eventually, they will fail.
For sure. Understandable. But yeah, anything else pertaining to my team, I would have said it in my draft analysis. I really implore you guys to check it out. But yeah, I just wanted to explain the whole reason I didn't want to keep Infernape. It was never even part of the plan, even though it is my secondary Pokemon. But yeah, it just wasn't part of the plan.
It's
fair enough.
Right, where are we ranking this team? Final team?
It's an A tier. Some solid, low-ish A tier.
Is it above or below HIN?
I think it's blue. Oh, wait, actually, no, you have a Tinglu. Oh, you have a Tinglu. Can I rate this number 1 because you got the Tinglu?
Nah, let's not do that, but I mean, I think it's...
Okay, put it above him. Put it above HIM, please.
I personally like it more than Chris's team as well, although that's personal preference. Like, I'd place it above Chris, below Beardo. That's where I'd place it.
Yeah, okay.
Alright.
I like that.
Let's put it there. So, that was quite the marathon, but ladies and gentlemen, there it is. That is your power ranking for Battle Hub Draft League Season 5. Of course, we are very excited to see how all these weekly battles will play out. Week 1 will start next week, so obviously make sure you are subscribed to all the coaches in the Battle Hub Draft League to follow along with all the battles and see all the action. I, for one, am very looking forward to this league and hope you guys are as well. But yeah, we're going to round it off there. So I'd like to thank Brandon and Frandy for joining me in this. You guys have any final thoughts on this list?
Oh, no.
Teams were definitely interesting. Anybody who has a ghost or psychic type, I hope you have fun winning the league. Okay, I'm kidding. The teams are generally very strong, and I'm sure you guys are gonna pilot them well. So, look forward to seeing that.
Brandon?
I think I've said everything I wanted to say, and I'm looking. Dang, what's my grammar like today? I am looking forward to the league starting.
Same, for sure.
Took us long enough to get here.
Indeed. All right, we are going to round off our marathon here. This took a hot minute, so if you guys have enjoyed it, please do make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already to the Battle Hub Draft League YouTube channel, and make sure to check out all the coaches in the description down below, and I'll put Frandy's channel in there as well, as why not? So go check her out as well. She's definitely deserves some love. And yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Good luck to all the coaches in the league, and peace out.